Good afternoon to you too, Jimmy. Great to be here with SEN Supercars. And James Moffat, two-time race winner, is alongside me to call the action. We're getting ready for the 8th race of this year's Repco Supercars Championship. And yesterday, Shane Van Gisbergen got it done, Moff, but only just, and Brodie Kostecki had probably the widest Camaro in the history of supercars to stop him from getting the win. It was a big defensive effort and very nearly paid off with a win.
It was an absolute fantastic way for race 7 of the championship to finish. Like you said, for Shane Van Gisbergen on fresher tyres there at the end, hunted down Brodie Kostecki, and it was fantastic to see Brodie as the championship leader in that Erebus Camaro actually put up a fight. All too often we see guys, in a way, put up the white flag when they see Shane coming through, but that wasn't the case with Kostecki. He went right down to the wire. There was some rubbing of panels between the two of them, but really a great display of driving, both defensively from Kostecki, but also aggression from Shane, who ultimately got the race win and is going to have his work cut out for race 8 of the championship today. He's starting from 9th in not too long away from now. Yeah,
we're about just over 10 minutes away from race start with the latest race, Wanneroo Raceway in Perth, Western Australia. It's 2.4 kilometres. It's a pretty historic venue. You've raced there plenty over the years. 50th anniversary this year since the championship first went there in 1973. But it's a track that in recent years the surface has degraded. It's fallen away because of the weather, the temperature. It's been resurfaced a couple of times, but it's now at that point where it's a couple of years since the last resurface. But all new cars, they've never been there before with the Gen 3 cars. The tyres, it actually turned on good racing yesterday. Cars were able to follow closely, able to attack, able to pass. It worked out pretty well, whereas in the past, Perth has always given us a pretty quiet kind of a race because it's very hard to pass in the older cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would have happened yesterday with all the teams and drivers, they would have had 42 laps under their belts and they will understand more what their race cars do in race conditions. So that will be very important for today. The teams would have gone away overnight, studied all the data. They would have understand how much tyre they did or didn't have. So expect in the races today the drivers to possibly be a bit more aggressive on those tyres. We talk about them a lot because they're obviously the thing that connects the car to the ground or the road, but it's very, very hard on the tyres over there. So, today I think will be a bit interesting, maybe a bit more pit stop strategy in the races as well.
Now, give me your take. Yesterday in the closing laps, Shane Van Gisbergen on fresher tyres, mowed down the field, which we've seen him do so many times before. But Brodie Kostecki took the aim to go, well, I'm going to make you earn it. He drove up the inside of all the corners. He slowed Van Gisbergen off the mid-corner of all the corners where he was vulnerable because Shane had the grip advantage and should be able to drive out of those slower corners and go straight past. We were within 3 laps of the finish. That is deemed acceptable as long as you don't deviate and as long as there's not an overlap with the car that's behind you. Were you surprised that he got a bad sportsmanship flag, which is in essence a warning to say, hey, race control's not that thrilled with what you're doing. Do it one more time and you'll get black flag.
Yeah, I actually thought it was completely uncalled for from race control, if I'm honest. I had no problem with what Brodie was doing. Like you said, Noons, within the last 3 laps of the race, that sort of defending is definitely tolerated as long as you don't deviate from the line that you choose to take on the way into the corner. And Brodie wasn't doing that. I thought it was just good, hard, fierce racing that I think if you asked any fan sitting on the sidelines or on the couch watching the race, listening on SEN, that's what they want to hear, see, and it should be encouraged, not the other way around. So hopefully, there was a bit of a reaction to that after the race, and I think the way that the two drivers embraced, congratulated each other, they didn't have a problem with it. So that's probably, Shane usually is pretty quick to point out if it was over the line or not. And Brodie's the type of character that I think would do the same, and they both thought it was, fair and play on.
It was extreme, but that is the aim of the game. There is a line, but you can go right up towards it. He was very close, if not on it. I do agree with you, by the way. I thought the bad sportsmanship flag was probably, if that was 10 laps to go, Absolutely. But 3 laps to go, it's fair game. But if it was 10 laps to go, Brodie would have let him go anyway.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
he would have known there's no way he can do that for 10 laps without getting those tyres fried even further or Shane punting him off the track. So it was one of those scenarios. For Van Gisbergen, he's in championship fight-back mode still because of that disqualification from round 1 in Newcastle where he lost that first race win. He's third in the championship. He's only 2 points now behind Chaz Mostert, and Walkinshaws are struggling again this weekend at Perth. They're not as bad as last year, but they're still not quite where they need to be. But Brodie Kostecki, let's just quickly talk about him. He's the championship leader. He's 76 points now in front of Chaz Mostert. He's been on the podium in all bar one race so far this year. Are we surprised that he's gone well this year, or are we more surprised that he's leading the championship and he's doing it at different tracks? He's not falling away as we go to every venue.
I think the surprise so far for Brodie Kostecki and Erebus is that they are there week in, week out so far. Admittedly, we're only three race weekends into the championship, but the consistency that the Erebus Coca-Cola Camaros,
You nearly said Mustang, didn't you? I know why.
Are showing so far this year is been impressive, and that's why Brodie sits in the lead of the championship. And just to touch on what we were talking about, why Brodie may have been defending so vigorously towards the end of that race yesterday afternoon, don't forget he's a Perth boy as well. So a race win on home soil would have meant all the more to him. So he'll be trying to go one better today.
And Perth drivers, there's usually not been many in them in the championship over the years. Garth Tander is the notable exception, and he won at Wanneroo in 2007, and of course that's the year that the only year that he won on home soil and that he went on to win that year's championship. We've got 42-lap races, 100 kilometres of racing ahead today. This first race is going to see Will Brown, Brodie's teammate, start from the pole. First pole for the young gun since Sydney Motorsport Park back in 2021. So that's a long time, nearly 50 races since he last sat on pole position in Supercars. So first time that he's been on pole at Wanneroo. David Reynolds will start alongside. We'll run through the full grid very soon, James, for race 8 from Wanneroo. Anton Di Pasquale, Brodie Kostecki. So there's only 2 Camaros in the top 8 on the grid. So the Fords are in there with a fight this weekend. There's been a small tweak to the software on those cars, trying to improve the drivability of the Ford engines, because in the new Supercars, we've got a big change this year, not just in terms of all new cars, but the engines. Not only are they brand new, they're completely different in their styles, whereas in previous years, the Chevy-based engine in the Commodore and the Ford in the Ford, whether it was a Falcon or a Mustang, were like for like of their technology and their engine architecture, whereas now you've got the pushrod 5.7-litre GM engine in the Chev and a double overhead cam V8 in the Ford, which is 5.4. So they're trying to mix apples and oranges a little bit differently. They've done a pretty good job to get such different engines so close. But these are the small little tweaks that the teams are needing to get them nice and level. Yeah, and that's just ongoing refinement. And I think we'll see a few more changes throughout the year. This certainly won't be the final iteration of what we see on the track. And the drivability in question of the Ford motor in particular has been a concern for the Mustang drivers and teams. And this is the first weekend where they've had an opportunity to make an adjustment to that. And it seems like the feedback coming out of Wanneroo from the drivers and the teams on the Ford side has been positive, but clearly they might not be completely satisfied with where they're at just yet. But there's still a long way to go in the championship. Race teams, race drivers, never. I don't think. When are they ever happy? You tell me. I don't think that's possible. Well, Will Brown's got a big opportunity today. He's 4th in the championship. Erebus, remember, lead the overall teams championship. We've got a long way to go in this championship. It's a 12-round, 28-race championship this season. We, of course, have the endurance races later in the year, but for now it's all about the drivers in sprint race mode. There will be one pit stop in this race. It's for a minimum of 2 tyres. It has to be done. No one yesterday played the game of trying to change 3 or 4. Everyone went 2. It was just a case of what lap did they come in and take that stop on. Do you reckon anybody try something like that today? That's a good question.
It just really depends on how the race is playing out with safety cars and other bits and pieces, and when you actually sort of commit to making that pit stop. You know, the thing is, if you commit to going 4 tyres, it's going to take longer than a 2-tyre stop, but you might get that back in the extra lap time that you'll achieve by having 4 new tyres on the car. So they're all things that will play out in front of our ears this afternoon on SEN. But, it's always a very interesting piece of the racing in Perth.
This is going to be an interesting one because we've got a really jumbled grid. So just to bring you up to speed, if you're just tuning in on SEN, we're getting ready for race 8 of the Repco Supercars Championship. Wanneroo Raceway, Western Australia, 42 laps, 100 kilometres. And Shane Van Gisbergen, the 3-time and reigning Supercars champion, is further back on the grid than he would like. He's going to start from 9th today, James, but I wouldn't count him out from there because we know with that car, we know with that team, they've got very good tyre life, and he's got a really strong history. He did it yesterday of running deeper and later in the race. It will not be a shock to see him on the podium at the end of the day, although the 2 qualifying sessions earlier today, he was 9th and 21st, so they haven't rolled that car out well today, but they do have a history, 888, of turning a car that is no good in one session into a rocket ship in the next.
And if you said what is Shane's strength versus his weakness is probably not the right word to articulate it with, but definitely the strength of Shane and the Red Bull Ampol racing team is their race pace, how they look after their tyres. And typically, as we see, the alternative strategy that they often play against their rivals, which always seems to allow Shane to be in a much better, stronger position with his tyres towards the back end of the race. So don't be surprised if that unfolds in front of us again this afternoon.
And it's about the flexibility that gives them, and to be able to do this track is 7 corners. It's pretty much right-handers. There's a lot of right-hand turning going on here, so that left rear tyre cops a lot of a pounding around Wanneroo. Of course, the surface we've talked about. And if you get off the track, say hello to sand, because you are going to need to get the bucket and spade out to get your car out, because it's pretty rare that you go off the track and you end up being able to drive it straight back on the road.
The other thing we didn't see yesterday, Noons, was the safety car. So we had a full green race. So there's always the threat of safety cars around here, because if there is any action and somebody happens to go off, like you mentioned with the sand there, 9 times out of 10, you're not getting out of that sand, and the safety car will be called. So that's another thing to look out for.
All right, we might run you through the way they line up on the grid. Cars ready to leave on the warm-up lap. Will Brown, David Reynolds will start from the front row of the grid. Anton Di Pasquale alongside our championship leader, Brodie Kostecki, who starts from 4th. James Courtney, solid yesterday, has qualified 5th, clear of Chaz Mostert. They'll share row 3. Will Davison and the impressive young Kiwi rookie Matthew Payne in the second Penrite forward from 8th. Van Gisbergen 9th. Tim Slade from P10. Solid run yesterday. Todd Hazelwood nearly got on the podium yesterday. He came home like a steam train. He'll start 11th with Bryce Forward. Then it's Jack LeBrock and Andre Heimgartner. Cam Waters, your mate from Tickford Racing, 15th, really struggling this weekend.
Yeah, he's not had a good weekend at all. Slight improvement over his qualifying from Saturday, but nowhere near where he'd want to be. You've got Randall and Scott Pye coming out of 17th and 18th. The man that chalked up his 600th race start, Mark Winterbottom.
And I reckon he's
20th.
Sick of talking about it as well. He's been talking about it all week. He's going to share the row with Cameron Hill, the young rookie. Brock Feeney, the other Red Bull car, 21st. He's qualified on pole for the race later this afternoon, but he's going to have to go from 21st today. James Golding, 22nd. He got clipped a position yesterday because on the last lap he went around the back of the curb at turn 7 in a fight with Bryce Forward. He got demoted 1 spot in the field in the finishing order. Macaulay Jones, Jack Smith and Declan Fraser. That's the 25-car field as they are getting ready to let loose and start the warm-up lap and get ready to roll.
So the thing that the Erebus guys are going to have to take into consideration here for this race 8 of the championship, Noons, is the fact that they've got both cars starting in the first couple of rows. So how they split the strategy between both their cars, because if a safety car does come out at the wrong time and neither of them have pitted, well, one of their cars is going to have to double stack in the pits, and that will, whoever it is, bleed lots and lots of times. So a split strategy from the Erebus guys will probably be a likely scenario as they get away under their warm-up lap. Perfect racing conditions over in the west, 20 degrees. Ambient at the moment, doesn't look like a cloud in the sky, so very nice conditions for both drivers and fans alike.
And the key here is managing this opening lap. For the drivers who start on the outside rows, it's getting across. It's covering that inside right-hand turn. And the corners at Wanneroo tend to go for a bit of time. They're not short and sharp like the street track in Newcastle that we covered a few weeks back here on SEN. It is very much loaded. They go for a while, these corners. So it works the tyres, it works the drivers, it works the cars, and that is going to be one of the cases to watch out for over the course of this race. 42 laps, 100 kilometres of racing. It's SEN Supercars with you this Sunday afternoon. Cannot think of a better place to be and doing it. And the question here is, Brown and Reynolds, front row. Old teammates, co-drove together at Erebus a couple of years ago. Will Brown took over the number 9 car at Erebus from David Reynolds, who, well, departed and went to the Grove team. And it's now Chevrolet and Ford on the front row of the grid. If you're David Reynolds on the outside, if you don't beat Brown to the first corner, you have to slot in straight away to cover off the rest of them.
Yeah, so Reynolds, typically very strong starter. He's actually starting, although out of position 2, on the racing clean side of the track. So there could be a bit of an advantage in it for him there. But you're right, if he doesn't get that jump, his next priority is to slot straight in behind Brown, because you do not want to be hung out around the outside of turn 1.
The key here is that there's 210 metres on the run from the start to turn 1 to sort it all out. You can hang around the outside through the right-hander, because up the hill at Wanneroo, it's a left-right kink, and if you can just slot yourself in there, you might be able to get it done. We're getting ready. Cars on the grid, lined up, ready to rumble. The last few rows are just rolling on in and peeling across to take their grid positions. Will Brown is on pole, car number 9. The Coca-Cola Camaro for Erebus Motorsport, the team's championship leaders, have got the pole. Can they convert it into a race win? We're going to find out. 42 laps ahead, 100 kilometres of racing, green flag at the back. That's the signal to the starter to start the sequence. We're ready to go. Race 8 of the Repco Supercars Championship on SEN. It's Will Brown and David Reynolds on the front row to turn 1. Anton Di Pasquale on row 2. It's very even. Reynolds has got the jump. He's trying to edge across to turn 1. There's a bit of a rub between Brown and Reynolds, but it's the pole man, Will Brown, to Umbazone, who leads the way, on the way through turns 2 and 3. Brody Kostecki's made a great jump too, Moff. He's up to 3rd. All cars are through the first couple of corners.
A beautiful start by the two guys on the front row. They went side by side through turn 1, and it was Brown who just won out on the exit of the corner. As we file down through turn 5 into turn 6, a great passing opportunity here at Wanneroo Raceway. So far, nice clean start from everybody in the field.
We'll keep an eye on Brock Feeney, the Red Bull car 88, trying to work his way from 21st on the grid. They're on their way down the hill from turn 6, under brakes to turn 7, and Kostecki lunging on Reynolds for second place. Down the inside, gets the job done. It is now Erebus 1, 2, Reynolds back to 3rd, Di Pasquale next, Courtney, Mostert, Davison, Matt Payne, Van Gisbergen stays in 9th. 1 lap down, we start lap 2, and Will Brown is off and rolling. He's got a 1.2 second margin already over his own teammate, Brody Kostecki. Erebus could not have had a better start to this race 8.
Unbelievable that by Reynolds. Kostecki absolutely caught him napping there into turn 7. A big move under brakes. Reynolds chose not to defend, caught napping a little bit there, so he'll be disappointed because now he's behind Kostecki, and he's already got pressure from the following Mustang of Anton Di Pasquale. Much better showing for him in the Shell V-Power Mustang compared to Saturday's race, and he's right up the back of the Penrite Mustang.
It's a real balancing act here now. Down at turn 7, the final turn, the end of lap 2. Anton Di Pasquale down the inside, but he runs wide and carts Reynolds off the road. Reynolds is back in the pack. He's got going again, but he's easily going to drop another 5, 6, 7 positions. Di Pasquale's lost spots as well. Will Davis and his teammates through. Mostert's through. Courtney's through. That move looked like it was going to be on, but then he couldn't pull the car up at turn 7, James, and he carried himself and Reynolds wide. I'm interested to know how race control look at that, because that's cost Reynolds, who did nothing wrong.
Yeah, whereas Reynolds dropped down to 12th, so it's cost him 10 positions effectively. So, yeah, Di Pasquale with a big move up the inside, braked as late as he could, but he locked that inside front tyre right at the crucial moment, and that ran him wide, which in turn sent Reynolds out into the boonies as well. But Moffat now up into P4. A bit of action as we head into turn 7. Waters looking up the inside of Hazelwood in the Cool Drive Mustang. It looks like he'll get that move done.
He's been a big mover. Cam Waters, the Monster Energy car, started 15th on the grid. He's on his way now into the 10 within 3 laps. The runner-up in last year's championship is already moving forward. They've hung out Todd Hazelwood at turn 1. Matt Payne is a bit further down the road. Now, he's the leading Penrite car, and we've got a queue. And now it becomes this issue, James. We're on lap 4 of 42. Everybody's going to pretty much have to now decide, do they want to use up their tyres now and make up some positions, or do they want to hang on and see how long they can last before their pit stop? I get the feeling from about 5th or 6th backwards, where it's all pretty much nose to tail, it's on for young and old. They want spots and they want them now.
Yeah, and we're watching the Shell V-Power Mustangs. They look very racy. So we've got Davidson in 5th and Di Pasquale in 6th after that moment at turn 7. But you're right, it's all about tyre management now. Van Gisbergen up to 8th, so he's only moved up the 1 spot and really only benefited from the incident between Di Pasquale and Reynolds. But, yeah, a long train of cars forming here at Wanneroo Raceway for race 8 of the championship.
And the key here is that Van Gisbergen, I'm not surprised that he hasn't moved forward far. He's only picked up 1 spot. And he generally does this where he manages the tyres in the early stage of the race. He doesn't go crazy, trying to pass cars left, right and centre. Under investigation from race control, that incident between Anton Di Pasquale and David Reynolds at turn 7 a couple of laps ago. So they're having a look into that. We'll keep you informed as to what unfolds. But it's Will Brown who leads the way. Brody Kostecki sits in 2nd. James Courtney, best of the Fords, in 3rd. I was going to say he's on fire so far this weekend, but he's already done that once this year.
Let's hope he's not literally on fire like
he's already done that before, but he's running solidly in 3rd spot. We've just reeled off lap 5 of 42 at Wanneroo Raceway. Mostert next, Will Davison 5th, Matt Payne, the young Kiwi. What a weekend for the young Kiwi in the Penrite car, David Reynolds' teammate. He sits in 6th. Di Pasquale 7th from Van Gisbergen, Slade and Waters now is in the 10, and they've pretty much now settled, James, into this rhythm. We're on lap 6, starting to get some space between the cars as they all start to run their own race. We're picking up a replay of Di Pasquale, who locked the right front wheel all the way into turn 7, ran right to the edge of the road. Reynolds had nowhere to go. I can't see how that's not a penalty, because he's made a mistake. He's locked the right front tyre. He's carted his car wide. He's pushed Reynolds off the road, not deliberately, but it has impeded and has caused drama for Reynolds, who is now 11th in the race. I can't see how that doesn't get some form of a time penalty, probably at the pit stop. Yeah, looking at the footage there, or the vision from the replay, you're exactly right, Noons. There was no malice in that at all from Anton. He's just locked a brake there. He was over the limit of the braking of his car into the final corner and, ran Reynolds wide and off the track. So it won't be unusual for Anton to get a penalty for that. And just starting to hear some word through that it might be that it is 15-second time penalty for Anton Di Pasquale. Car 11, Shell V-Power Racing Team, is 7th on the road at the moment. Which is consistent for a driving infringement of that nature. Yeah, that's fair play. So he'll take that at his pit stop. When that car comes to a halt, they'll add that extra amount of time on. Cameron Hill is in the pits at the moment, the first car to roll on in, the truck assist Camaro. And they've got both doors open on this car. This doesn't look like... this is not a this pit stop. This is a definite drama. But lap 8 now, we're now at lap 8 noon, so the guys in the cars, the drivers, they definitely have a feel for what condition they're chasing in terms of balance, whether they've got too much understeer, is the front tyre not working like they want, or is the rear sliding too much? The tyre pressures would have come up, the brake temperatures are up, so they really know and have a feeling for what's underneath them now. So it's at this point of the race where they can really establish how hard they can push the tyre
in this early phase of the race, or do they want to conserve and be stronger in the back half of the race? But James Courtney in the Snowy Rivers Caravans Mustang, he's doing a fantastic job. Only 8 tenths behind Kostecki in P3, quickest of the Mustangs. So a good showing yesterday in P5 for Courtney, and he's backing it up again today.
A little update from the pit lane. Cameron Hill's truck assist Camaro. The issue with that car is the gear shift is not returning to the normal position after he shifts the gears. So a big issue for the rookie who is in his first year of Supercars this year, but it's a guy who was an impressive rookie a few years ago, Will Brown. He leads the way. The margin's pretty even. 1.2 seconds back to Brodie Kostecki. We're on lap 9 of 42 at Wanneroo. James Courtney, another second down the road. And then it's Mostert, Davison, Payne, De Pasquale, Van Gisbergen, Slade. Waters is the 10. David Reynolds, 11th, is under fire from Todd Hazelwood. Down at turn 6, downhill into the corner traditionally known as Kolb Corner. And Hazelwood's got a great run on the exit here. He's got overlap. He's down the inside of Dave Reynolds on the run, over the rise, down the hill, and then it goes up again under brakes to the final right-hander, turn 7, that brings them back onto the pit straight, and he's got the move done through to 11th. So that one stings even more for Reynolds, who, quite frankly, shouldn't be where he is. He's there because of De Pasquale's issue a bit earlier.
Very nice move that by Hazelwood. Very classic or traditional move that is executed here at Perth, Wanneroo Raceway. Like you said, he got better drive traction out of the long turn 6 Kolb corner and was able to sneak up alongside Reynolds on the run down to turn 7 and execute the pass under brakes. So nice job there by Hazelwood. He was quick in yesterday's race, 7 of the championship, so he's moving forward again in today's race.
There's plenty of battles going on in the middle of the pack. Will Brown is continuing to lead the way. We're on lap 10 of 42. Winterbottom putting a move on Thomas Randall. They are miles back in the pack, James. 20th and 21st, and they're drag racing on the run down towards the final turn. Macaulay Jones keeping a watchful brief in the Pizza Hut Camaro. But at the moment, it's the Erebus Coca-Cola duo who lead the way, and they're 1-2 with a handy margin back to James Courtney. Now the race goes into something of a holding pattern. Those first couple of laps where drivers were taking a chance to make a move and pick up a spot or two, that moment's over. Now they're racing the clock. Now they're racing their tyres. They don't want to go too hard too early. The important element was yesterday. 42-lap race, James. The way that the guys who ended up at the front did it. Van Gisbergen made it all the way to lap 27. So that's why he came home really strong on his rubber. Kostecki went to lap 18, but some others, Will Davis and James Courtney, they went to lap 12, and they were trying to get out of the traffic to try to give themselves some clear air. But everyone's got a fair bit of clear air at the moment, so I'd say that you'd want to see people push on a bit deeper into this race today than they did yesterday.
Exactly right, and we haven't seen anybody as brave as Nick Percat yesterday, who pitted on lap 7.
That was brave.
So that was very brave. Probably didn't quite work out for him yesterday, and nobody's taken that option as strategy today. So interesting to note that Will Brown is now 1.4 seconds ahead of his teammate Brodie Kostecki, but bear in mind that margin was basically created on the first lap. He was just over a second clear of the field after lap 1, so he's got a little bit of speed on his teammate, but at the moment these two Chevrolet Camaro Coca-Cola Erebus cars have the field covered.
It's Chevrolet Camaros, 1-2, James, but then it's Ford, 3-7. Chev, Ford, Chev, round out the 10. Andre Heimgartner's now joined the Annoy David Reynolds fan club because there's been a few members today. He's all over the back of Reynolds on the run to turn 7. They're fighting for 12th place. Our leaders are now on lap 13 of 42. You're with SEN Supercars on Sunday afternoon as now Heimgartner takes a look at Reynolds. I wouldn't mind betting, James, that the Reynolds Penrite Mustang might be damaged from that.
He's either
clash with De Pasquale. It's got no pace at the moment.
He's definitely struggling. So you're right. He's either sustained a bit of damage in that contact he had with De Pasquale, or in general, he's just got no pace, because regardless of whether he hadn't have lost all those positions at the start of the race from that contact, he'd be battling anyway. So he's under a lot of pressure from Heimgartner, who just looks like he's got more mid-corner pace in his R&J Batteries Camaro and Reynolds definitely with a bit of a battle on his hands at the moment.
Will Brown continuing to lead the way, lap 14 at Wanneroo. Two races today from Western Australia, but what a great start for the Erebus duo. And this is an important one for Will Brown because all the headlines, all the love has been for Brodie Kostecki this year, and Brodie got on top of him last year. They were rookies together in 2021, and Will Brown was the one taking the headlines. He won that race, remember, at Sydney Motorsport Park, the one that Jamie Whincup took his own teammate, Shane Van Gisbergen, off the road in the fight to try to defend, and they let Will Brown get away and get the win. For Will Brown, this is a bounce back because yesterday he really struggled. He qualified lowly. He did manage to work his way up through the order. He got from 22nd to 16th, but now he's in control of this race. He's just rattled off lap 14. He has set the fastest lap of the race back on lap 2 at a 55.95. And remember, in sprint races in Supercars, 5 bonus championship points for the driver that sets the fastest lap time, provided that you finish in the top 15. But that is certainly a nice little bonus extra for not just the Drivers' Championship, but the Teams' Championship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And given the nature of the circuit around here at Wanneroo, we'll typically see fastest laps either at the start of the race, which is a little bit unusual, or immediately after a pit stop, as we've got Scott Pye and looks like Jack LeBrock, the first cars to make genuine pit stops in this race at lap 15.
So they've got a long way to go on this set of tyres. 42 laps, it's 100 kilometres of racing in this, the 8th race of the championship, and Van Gisbergen is now starting to go to work. He is having a big look down at turn 7, the final turn, the right-hander. He's up the inside of Anton De Pasquale, so that puts the reigning champ now up to 7th. So he's only up 2 spots from where he started this race 8 of the championship. And guess who's coming for the ride? Waters is right there with him, and he's now putting the pressure on De Pasquale. Far better performance from Cam Waters and the Monster Energy Mustang. Able to turn on a little bit of speed here and work his way through the order. But you've always got to ask the question, has he used the tyres to do that too early here? And he's not going to have much left for the run to the pit stop. But nevertheless, much better showing for Car 6, last year's runner-up in the championship. He sits in 9th at the moment. Will Brown leads the way. 2 seconds now, the margin, James. Back to Brodie Kostecki. It's 1-2 for the Coke cars. Courtney 3rd, Mostert, Davison, Payne. No change there. Van Gisbergen, De Pasquale, Waters and Hazelwood. That's the top 10.
Yeah, so this is much better from Waters today. He's up 6 spots from his starting position, so he's actually, apart from James Golding, the biggest mover in the field so far. Whereas you look at somebody like Reynolds, who's down 10 spots from his starting position of second. So, yeah, contrasting fortunes for the two guys in Mustangs there. But, yeah, here's a look at Van Gisbergen nibbling away at the back of De Pasquale. Just poked his nose up the inside at turn 6 and then was able to get good drive out of Cold Corner and range up alongside the Shell V-Power Mustang, and a nice move under brakes into turn 7.
Just hearing that Penrite Racing, the Grove team that David Reynolds drives for, there's a report that they reckon he's got sand in the brake ducts of that car from running wide with that contact with De Pasquale earlier on, which is cooking the brakes in the number 26 Mustang, and hence that's why the performance is not there. He's 12th in the race at the moment. Brown leads now by 2.38 seconds, James. He's just starting to move away. We're on lap 18, nearly at half race distance at Wanneroo. And De Pasquale now has got Waters down the inside at turn 1 underneath. He goes through for 8th place. And now Todd Hazelwood in the Cool Drive Mustang, he's next in the queue and looking really fast.
De Pasquale there made a mistake into turn 1, ran wide on the entry, and that was all that Waters needed to stick the nose of the Monster Mustang up the inside. And De Pasquale, lots of pressure from Hazelwood now, who's going to slip down the inside at turn 6. So De Pasquale's got a battle on his hands in that Shell V-Power Mustang going backwards at a fast rate.
Like what we're seeing from Todd Hazelwood, the blue Cool Drive car from Tim Blanchard's team, is now going to have a look at Cam Waters in the fight for 8th place. Now, this team, the Blanchard team, they're the only single-car team in Supercars. Everybody else has 2 cars or 4 cars. They're on their own in and they're on their hunt. They're on the hunt for their first ever podium in the Supercars Championship. They were close yesterday, and if he can run deep into this race, I reckon he's a chance for a top 5 comfortably here.
Yeah, they're definitely showing good speed in that Cool Drive Mustang. There's no doubt about that. A bit of gamesmanship there by Waters as we watch the replay of his passing manoeuvre on Di Pasquale. Just sort of faked the nose there on the entry to turn 1. It might have slightly distracted Di Pasquale on the entry to turn 1, and it was enough for Waters to get up the inside. But this battle pack continues.
Just quickly go back to that Anton Di Pasquale
Waters
drama
and
here
Hazelwood going at it. Currently 8th and 9th in the running order.
Now, the key here is I'm watching Van Gisbergen. He's 7th in the race, James. We're on lap 20. His margin to the lead is 10.96 seconds. Now, earlier on, a couple of laps back, when I checked it last, it was 7. So Brown is going away from Van Gisbergen at this critical stage of the race.
And the thing that Will Brown's got in his favour at the moment is he has the beautiful clean air that as a race driver you always want in front of him. So he doesn't have that hot exhaust temp coming into the front of his car. He's able to manage his front tyres as he pleases, but he's doing a fantastic job. He's driving the car nice and straight and clearly looking after its tyres well.
For Will Brown, he has been helping Erebus along this year to lead the team's championship. There is obviously the drivers' championship, and that's where the focus is so much, but the team's championship is very important in the pit lane as well. The combined points from both cars. Now, pit lane is open for action. In fact, it's been open for a long time, but it's Brody Kostecki who's peeled off, so he's the first one in from the leading group. And we have just got to the end of lap 20.
So nice clean pit stop there by the Erebus crew, I should say. Kostecki taking 2 loaded side tyres, so left-hand side tyres on his Coca-Cola Camaro. So,
and James, we should point out too, loaded side, left side, because there's so many right-hand corners.
Yeah.
The left, turn 1, long right-hander. Turn 6 that brings them back from cold corner to the run down the hill. Last corner, turn 7. They're turning right a lot around this place. So let's see now what they do with the other Erebus car. Do they pretty much even this race? We're on halfway. We're lap 21 just gone. Brown staying on the track at the moment. We're picking up a replay here. Van Gisbergen putting a move on Matt Payne, his countryman, for 5th place, who now actually pits Matt Payne in the Penrite car. So if you're Erebus and you're Will Brown, I reckon you go on a little bit more here.
Yeah, I agree. I think you just sort of monitor that margin for it back to Kostecki. He's going to have a little bit more pace because he's just put fresh tyres on. But Will had the benefit of 3 seconds before Brody pitted, so he can afford to run a couple of extra laps longer. And another nice pit stop there by the Penrite Racing crew. So they've serviced Matt Payne with, again, 2 left-hand side working tyres down his Mustang. So he'll feel very nice for the next couple of laps with some fresh tyres underneath him.
It's easy to get too carried away with that sudden injection of grip. He's been impressive this year. Last year's Mike Cable Young Gun Award winner for best first-year driver in the Super 2 Series. Got the step up this year in the main championship. Chaz Mostert in the pits. Will Davison is coming in as well. But Brown is staying out there. Courtney stays out. Van Gisbergen is pressing on in 3rd. He's now 11.7 seconds away from our leader, Will Brown. And now the thing is here for Erebus, the undercut for Brody Kostecki, who pitted before. Can he get out in front of Will Brown, who's staying on the road at the moment?
That will really be dictated by how long Will chooses to go in the race. But we saw it yesterday with Shane Van Gisbergen. The longer you do go, although the undercut might work for some of his rivals, he'll have really fresh tyres at the back end of the race that might prove beneficial for him. So no change of position between Mostert and Davidson in the pits there. They come back out line astern as they were before the pit stop. 2 very efficient stops by both those crews. So
Brown is staying out there. He's just completed lap 23 of 42. He's got 11 seconds back to Courtney, who now pits. Van Gisbergen is now the 2nd car in the race on the road. So pretty much half the field now, James, have made their compulsory stop, and from what we're seeing, pretty much all changing left-hand side tyres rather than rears. Of course, Control Dunlop tyre in Supercars racing, same tyres used on all corners of the car. James Courtney serviced and released in the Snowy River Caravans car for Tickford. He's going to come out just as Mostert and Davison are making their way down into turn 1. He's going to come out in front of Chaz with a little bit of a margin. Has to bring those tyres now up to temperature, but that's a good result, I reckon, for Courtney versus holding those guys back. And the teams have software, timing software. They know how long it takes to get in the pit lane. It's 27 seconds to go through the pit lane plus your stop time. So they've been able to put him back on the track in clear air on what's been. He's been the leading Tickford car this weekend, James Courtney. Had a podium in Perth last year, so not too surprised to see him up there. That's a great bounce back after that well-publicised fire from Albert Park at the last round.
And also, the crash he had in the top 10 shootout at Newcastle on the Sunday. So it's been a torrid start to the championship for the Car 5 crew. But as you mentioned correctly so, Noons, it's been a good weekend so far for Courtney. Will Brown still continuing on in the race lead. He's got 12.7 seconds back to the next car on the track, which is Shane Van Gisbergen. Sounds like they might be pitting the number 9.
Nope.
No, he's not.
It's going around again. So that's 25 laps in the books, James, of 42. And Brown, the key here is Brodie Kostecki is 13th in the race. He's 31 seconds behind on the road, and he's the first of the cars that have stopped. Van Gisbergen is staying out in second. Waters is staying out. He runs third. Slade, Di Pasquale, remember he's got a 15-second hold penalty when he comes in. Then James Golding. Reynolds is in now. I don't think there's much that they can do here to help him from earlier on. This is a race that's going to get away from him.
Yeah, not without losing too much time in the pit stop. So he pulls up on his marks again. Two tyres going down the left-hand side of his car. Another great pit stop there by the Penrite crews. All the pit stops we've seen so far have been very efficient by all the teams. So no dramas to speak of so far. As the race leader now, Will Brown pits.
And this is at the end of lap 26, James. So the question is, can Erebus nail this pit stop? Will his teammate Brodie Kostecki, who pitted at the end of lap 20, 6 laps ago, come out in front? Pressure on the team's championship leaders, left side tyres. For Will Brown, solid stop. He's on his way out of the pit box, car back on the ground and rejoining the pit lane. Fast lane is 40 kilometres per hour speed limited. He's not the only one in there because Van Gisbergen has come in as well. So Brown now back out on the road. He exits the pit exit, which is on the inside of turn 1. He comes just out in front of Cameron Hill, who's down laps after dramas with that car.
And he's got heaps of margin on Kostecki Noon. So, yeah.
Van Gisbergen back on the road as well. He's rejoined behind that Payne, Davison, Mostert, Courtney Fight. And just about the whole field now has taken their compulsory stop. There's only 4 cars left, and Waters, who is the first car on the road now, he is the new race leader, but he'll give it up as he comes on in. So Anton Di Pasquale now moves to the lead, but he is yet to pit. In fact, only he and Thomas Randall are yet to make their pit stops in this 8th race of the championship. But it's ended up with Will Brown having 2.3 seconds back to Brodie Kostecki. So they've played that really well. Great pit stop from Waters. He's on his way back out of the lane. But here's an important one, James. We're on lap 28. There's a bit of history waiting here. Erebus have never, ever had a 1-2 finish in the history of Supercars. It's their 10th anniversary season in the championship this year. They came in, remember, with the Mercedes-Benz. They swapped to Holden. They had David Reynolds. Now they're in Camaros, and they've got a chance to write some history here. This is a fair chance.
With 14 laps remaining, Noons, we're about to see if the commentator's curse actually exists, because if anything was, they are in the box seat to finish 1-2 in this race at the way it runs at the moment. But if anything was to upset that, I think Barry Ryan might be coming knocking on your door after the race, Noons.
I'm all about the positivity here. I'm all about the history, and they're in control. Courtney third. of the effective order, then Mostert and Davison, Randall, Payne. Van Gisbergen's back to where he was earlier on. He's effectively 7th. There's only one car left at the front of the queue. De Pasquale yet to pit because Randall is now in. Shane is now off Will about 12 seconds. He hasn't really gained anything from before the stops.
No, and surprisingly, Brodie didn't really gain any time through the pit stop cycle over Will either. So, Will's in the box seat here. He's got 6 or 7 lap fresher tyres over his nearest rival, who happens to be his teammate. And he can really just manage his tyres to the best of his ability to the end of the race, as finally De Pasquale on lap 30 makes his pit stop. And we'll see where he falls back into the running order after his stop.
And he's got a 15-second hold time penalty
so he's going to be buried in the field.
From forcing Reynolds off the track a little earlier on in that passing move that didn't quite work out. So they complete the stop, change the tyres, and once the car hits the ground is when the 15-second stopwatch starts. And it is the longest 15 seconds he'll have of his day as he waits and watches on what's been a bit of a better weekend. I mean, the Shell V-Power team were ordinary in Newcastle. They were quite frankly well below where we would expect them to be. Grand Prix, they had better speed. They just didn't have a result to show for it. They've had a bit more consistency this weekend. They're not quite there in terms of race-winning speed, but it's been a better weekend so far.
Their single-lap car speed looks much better, but they do look like they are struggling over a race distance. And they're not the only ones out there. Certainly, the Mustangs look like they have quite good... The Mustangs in general look like they have good one-lap speed. And the Camaros seem to have them a bit more covered over the race distance. So focusing here on Waters, who's fallen back to 9th in the pit stop cycle, but he did pit quite late in the sequence of everybody who pitted. So he's going to have some good rubber underneath him. He's got Hazelwood a couple of seconds up the road in position 8, so that's his next target.
So Will Brown leads. It's 2.8 seconds the margin to Brodie Kostecki. We're at three-quarter race distance on lap 31 of 42. And that margin's handy. And it's handy from Kostecki to Courtney. Van Gisbergen just set his fastest lap of the race last time around. But he's in 7th. He's 10.9 seconds away from the leaders. Erebus have control of this race. They have control of the championship as it sits as well. And they've got 10 laps to go to bring it on home. Race 8, Perth Supersprint, Wanneroo, Supercars on SEN. And at the moment, it's Chevy 1, 2, Ford 3, 4, 5 and 6, another Chevy 7th, and then a couple more Fords in 8th and 9th. And Cam Waters is the car, James, that sits in 9th.
And for the Shell V-Power Racing fans and Anton De Pasquale fans out there in particular, after his 15-second stop and hold in the pits, he's now in 23rd.
That stings. Good news for them, though, is that Will Davison, who was a winner in Perth last year, he sits in 5th place at the moment. Our leader, Will Brown, the number 9, Coca-Cola Camaro. He's at the final turn 7, the right-hander, bumping up over that big exit curb that sits on the exit. He completes another one. Lap 32 is in the books now. New fastest lap of the race, though, is James Golding. James, 55.94 last time around. Newland Camaro back in 16th position. But now Brown leads by 3.4 seconds. It's got a feel, doesn't it, that the queue's almost in the rack here. There's no other real threat coming from behind.
No, you're exactly right. So, Will just really has to focus on just hitting his marks, being nice and smooth. Van Gisbergen here having a look at Prane under brakes at turn 7, gets that move done now. So the series champion up one more spot into, you'll have to give us a problem
drama.
for
Tim Slade. He's pulling off on the pit straight. In fact, he's peeled right over the pit exit road to the inside access road there. So he's at least out of the way. We should be able to continue this race without the need for the safety car. That's a drama for Tim Slade.
And he was running inside the top 10 there, so disappointing for both Tim and the Premier Racing crew. They've been fast so far at the start of 2023, so we'll try and follow up what the issue is there with the Slade car.
So Brown leads 3.8 seconds back to Brodie Kostecki. We're at lap 34 of 42. 9 to complete at Wanneroo. Courtney on target. James Courtney, the 2010 Supercars champ. There's life in the old fella yet. He's still got some speed. He knows how to piece together a result at Wanneroo. He runs third. Mostert fourth. Will Davison fifth. No change. Van Gisbergen now is sixth from Payne, Hazelwood, Waters and Andre Heimgartner. So nice move forward for the R&J Batteries car. And again, Brad Jones Racing have nailed the pit stops. They've got the 3 fastest pit stop times in this race. The quickest, Bryce Fullwood, did a 2.7 second tyre change earlier on. Good news for the Newlon team. Premier Racing. Slater's got that car running again. It's mobile. He's 24th, though, in the race. But whatever the issue there, he's been able to fire it up again.
Yeah, so that's an odd one without knowing the full detail of what's happened there with Slade. But, clearly, whatever issue he did have, which brought the car to a halt, he's been able to reset something possibly inside the cockpit and fire it back up and get back into the race. But unfortunately for him, the damage has been done. He's dropped a lap to the leaders and sits in 24th.
8 laps to go at Wanneroo. Another race coming up this afternoon. So it's a double dose of Supercars on SEN. And as we wait and we watch, this time just keeps on expanding. Brown leads by 4.1 seconds. He's just crossed the line to end lap 36, 7 to go. And this 1-2 finish for Erebus is looking really solid right now. And we're hearing Tim Slade's issue. It's a gear selector issue in car 23. This is the issue. The whole thing's detached from the chassis, which is the issue. Well, that's a big issue.
That's a slight issue, yeah. So that's a couple of Camaros now that we've heard during the race. Cameron Hill, we saw in the pits early on with mechanics driving in his driver's door to rectify a gear stick or gear selection issue as well. So, not sure quite what's going on there, but for Will Brown, back or off, son. Cruiser home. You've got less than 6 laps to go. 4.4 seconds back to his teammate Brodie Kostecki in position 2. He has got this race under control.
4.4 seconds now. And remember that the guy in second is his own teammate. So max points here for Erebus if they can nail this 1 and 2 to extend their lead in the team's championship. It will extend Brodie Kostecki's lead in the Drivers' Championship. Plenty of fights going on outside the 10. Bryce Fullwood now is down the inside on David Reynolds. And right behind them is Brock Feeney. We haven't said much about Brock. The Red Bull Ampol Camaro is now up the inside of Reynolds, trying to squeeze his way through on the run through the S's, but he's 13th at the moment. That's a big improvement from 21st on the grid, and now he's going to try to get a movie side by side with Reynolds on the run through turn 4, but he's left the door open, and down the inside, James Golding pounces to push the reigning Adelaide 500 champ back 1 position. So while he was working Feeney on Reynolds, he kind of forgot about James Golding, who snuck down the inside, and now Golding's going to work on Reynolds. He's going to get a run down the inside over the hill on the run to turn 7. He's through to 12th.
Reynolds continuing to struggle with his Penrite Mustang. He's dropping further down through the field, but you're right there. Feeney just was wrongly positioned his car, I guess, through turn 4 there, and Golding was able to pounce on it. But I think before this race is out, it won't surprise me if Feeney can pick off Reynolds. We're catching a replay here. Yeah, so Feeney went to go up the inside at turn 4, which wrongly positioned him for turn 5 on the outside, and Golding slipped on through. Nice move that by Golding in the Newlon Camaro, and most importantly, he's in the top 15 now, Noon, so he'll get that bonus 5 points for the fastest lap that he currently holds.
Will Brown's got 4 laps to go. Feeney's now making a move on Reynolds down at turn 6, that right-hander, commonly known as Kolb Corner, and that picks up another spot for him, so he's on his way forward. Meanwhile, Waters is working on the other Penrite car in the fight for 8th and 9th, but Will Brown is leading at will. 5.4 seconds the margin back. He's got no threat from Brodie Kostecki behind. Courtney on target for a podium. He's got a comfortable 2 seconds back to Chaz Mostert in 4th place. And Van Gisbergen sits in position 6. I mean, in the bigger picture of the championship, That's not a bad fight back. That's points. You take them and run, because he's got another fight back coming later this afternoon from 21st on the grid as Waters now gets up the inside of Payne and grabs 8th place down at turn 6.
Nice move that by Cam. He showed his intention very early on in the braking for turn 6. He's clearly got better car speed with a few laps to go over Payne and was able to execute that move under brakes very nicely. So up to position 8 for Waters. Started 15th, so this has been good progress through the field for Waters and the Monster Mustang crew at Tickford Racing. Nice bounce back from their poor result yesterday, but Will Brown, mate, he probably have the arm on the windowsill, I reckon. He's that far in front. This has been a dominant display by not only Brown, but the whole Erebus crew to have both cars at the front of the field like they do. Wowee, they have really turned up their cars overnight, and clearly the class of the field at the moment.
So Will Brown's on his way down the hill towards turn 7. At the end of this lap, which is coming up in about 5 seconds' time, he'll get to the control line. And a couple to go. 2 laps to run. Margin 6 seconds. It's just a case now of bringing it on home for Erebus Motorsports' very first 1-2. Van Gisbergen, James, is going to work. He's caught Will Davison for 5th place. He's in 6th. He's trying to take 5th away from the 2-time Bathurst 1000 winner Will Davison in the number 17 Shell V-Power Mustang. But a quick word too, James Courtney, what a great run this weekend. He has been the Tickford leader of their 4-car program this weekend, which is more often than not Cam Waters. But James has made a real step up. That experience has really paid off this weekend.
Doing it for the old boys, so to speak, is Cordo. But Van Gisbergen now up the inside of Davidson at turn 6. A nice clean move there. So clearly got a better car underneath him at this back end of the race. Question now will be, can he get to the back of Chaz Mostert and get through with 1 lap to go? It'll be touch and go.
It's going to be close, but he'll have a crack. Will Brown is on his way home. Last lap has begun at Wanneroo, lap 42, and he has absolutely nailed it today. From pole position, led away, and only gave up the lead when he pitted, has been otherwise not headed, and has controlled this race all the way.
Surely you've got to back it off, Noons, and do the form finish. Eh? Surely 6 seconds in hand. They've got no pressure back to Courtney in P3, but Will Brown, what a storming drive this has been. Got the perfect start from pole position and has absolutely led the field start to finish in a dominant display. And he'll pick up his first race win for 2023. Well done.
Will Brown off the final turn. The checkered flag flies, and the Toowoomba Tornado picks up the win in Perth. Will Brown leads home his teammate Brody Kostecki. It's 1-2 for Erebus. The first time ever for Erebus. Their 11th race win in Supercars, but their first with a 1-2. Barry Ryan, the whole team, the whole crew is up on the pit wall. They should be thrilled. That was perfectly executed. Speedy cars, great pit stops. They've nailed it, Jimmy. Erebus 1-2, dominant race in Perth with James Courtney on the podium. And the best bit is we get another race this afternoon.
Looking forward to that. Great call, Aaron. Well done, James, as well. Absolutely outstanding performance from Will Brown and Erebus. As you mentioned, the first time ever, a 1-2. That's a Bendix brake. Big moment. Put your foot down with confidence. Bendix brakes. And, of course, they are the best-known brakes. Well done, Erebus. Well done, Will Brown. We'll get ourselves to a break. We're very jealous of that. The weather update there is brought to you by Polaris, Australia's #1 selling side-by-side brand. And, of course, they are thanks to the Polaris off-road. So around the grounds now, 10 minutes remaining in the first half in the NRL match being played over at Mount Smart Stadium. 2-0. 2-0, the Roosters over the Warriors. So low-scoring affair there. High-scoring affair, especially from Geelong. Halftime of that game against Essendon, 14-4-88. They lead the Bombers 7-2-44. And the A-League Grand Final for women will kick off later this afternoon. It's Western United taking on Sydney FC. But going back to Perth, and of course there was that Bendix break big moment for Will Brown and team. Thanks to Bendix. Put your foot down with confidence, Bendix brakes. And Aaron and James, I guess, got a bit of time to think about it now. That was a very impressive win from Will and the team.
Jimmy, I reckon that is, of all of Erebus's wins, and they've won Bathurst and they've won some big races over the journey, James, their 11th win, but that is the most dominant performance they've come. 1-2, Will Brown, the winner, Brodie Kostecki, the championship leader, in second, and it was daylight back to James Courtney in third.
Yeah, absolutely emphatic display or performance, I should say, from the Erebus crew. Both their drivers, Will Brown, Brodie Kostecki, absolutely, faultless, really. So super impressive, and really, they're the team that has rolled out with these Gen 3 cars. They've been fast from the initial testing before the championship started. They were fast at Newcastle, fast at the Australian Grand Prix, and they're proving to be not only genuine championship contenders, but they're going to be very hard to beat through the course of 2023.
So we're convinced now that they're a genuine championship-winning challenger. This is not just a flash in the pan?
Well, I think for me, we've been to 3 very different styles of circuit so far in the championship. Street circuit for the first weekend of the series at Newcastle, Grand Prix, Australian Grand Prix, big, fast, flowing, open type layout circuit, and then Perth, Western Australia is, as we've spoken about, very, very hard on tyres. So to be quick across all 3 different types of circuits, I think it's hard to say that they're not genuine contenders. And both drivers are competitive. That's the thing. They've got both drivers winning races, getting pole positions at the front of the field. So it's not like there's just one of them that's doing well. Both guys are doing well.
Nice synergy in that team. They do work together really well. It's not like a lot of these supercars and motorsport teams where the rivalries are so strong. They've got themselves a 153-point lead in the teams championship now over Triple Eight. It's very rare that at this stage of the year it's not Triple Eight or previously the Shell V-Power team that have been leading the way. But if you've just tuned into SEN, race 8 of the Repco Supercars Championship completed in Western Australia. Will Brown, his second career win. Brodie Kostecki and James Courtney rounded out the podium. Solid run from Chaz Mostert, 4th for Walkinshaw Andretti United. Reigning champ Shane Van Gisbergen started 9th and finished 5th. Will Davison next from Todd Hazelwood. Cam Waters, Matt Payne and Andre Heimgartner rounded out the top 10. Probably the hard story of that race was David Reynolds. He's finished 14th. He got escorted off the road when Anton De Pasquale tried to pass him down at turn 7. Clearly, he got a bit of sand in the front of that car, had no pace afterwards, and he's got 14th when he had started right near the front.
Well, he started off the front row, almost led the field into turn 1, to be honest. So, yeah, he'll be disappointed with that result because, it's not too often that you start from the front row. So when you do, you want to capitalise on those strong qualifying performances. So one that possibly got away from Reynolds and the Penrite crew. But the other thing to mention about Will Brown is race 6 of the championship, the final one of the weekend at the Australian Grand Prix. He probably had the car to beat in that race, made a driving area, spun out whilst attempting a pass for the lead of the race. So a little bit of redemption in a way for him to come back to Perth, the next round of the championship, and take out race 8 in emphatic style.
Yeah, Jimmy, it was a really big performance from the Erebus team. They have really laid down the gauntlet to the dominant Triple Eight race engineering. The best part is there's another race to complete the day, and it's going to start in just over 3 hours' time. We'll have all the action here on SEN, but for now, it's all about Erebus. They're the team to beat.
A bit of news coming out too with Erebus unsuccessful with their protest for the Saturday race. Aaron Shane Van Gisbergen keeps his Perth points.
Yeah, Jimmy, no real surprises there. Erebus did launch a protest against that move that he put in yesterday's race to get by Brodie Kostecki. That was dismissed, so it is play on. We've got one race to come in Supercars getting underway in about 25 minutes' time, but also in action in Perth this weekend, a range of support categories, Jimmy, and the V8 Super Utes have kicked off their new season, supporting the Supercars, the V8-powered Super Utes. And on the line, Dave Casey, who drives the Bendix car with thanks to Bendix. Put your foot down with confidence for Bendix brakes. And, Dave, you've had a super weekend, top 7 for the 4 races overall. Solid start to the championship for you.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, just come in 7th actually for the last race and 7th overall. So, yeah, just a fantastic start to the season. We're all really happy. The car's in good shape. So, yeah, good start.
Now, last year you were in the Super Utes for the first time, 6th in your rookie season in the points. Expectations this year? Can you sneak into that top 5? There's some drivers in the series this year who have got plenty of experience in these Utes and the Super Utes and the old V8 Utes. Can you sneak up there?
Yeah, definitely aiming for the top 5, obviously, and push forward. But as you said, mate, the category, the calibre of drivers now has just really, really stepped it up. So it's going to be harder, but we've been putting in a lot of work in the off season. Got a brand new car, done fair few test days and that. So, and I've been working pretty hard in the gym with my coach. So yeah, we're putting our best foot forward to give it the best shot we can.
Now, this year, mate, you were behind the wheel of one of the Isuzu D-Maxes, the Cedars team in Sydney, who've built and run. I think they've built 5 cars in the off-season. They've been busier than some of the Supercars teams. This series is really growing, isn't it? It's had a couple of difficult years, but the swap to the V8 engine from the turbo diesels, 19 cars, best field for the opening round. It's off to a great start.
Yeah, for sure, mate. The category is just going ahead in leaps and bounds. Just since we've gone to the V8 engine, I think last year was a good proving point that it's great racing again. The crowds love the sound of the V8 motor, and it's just a lot of interest sparking up for people wanting to come in. So over the off-season, not only Cedars built new cars, but Western City Motorsport built 2 as well. And I think there's another 3 or so on the go that aren't quite finished yet. So, yeah, it's definitely going ahead leaps and bounds, this category.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing how it rolls out. It's going to support the Repco Supercars Championship right throughout the course of the year. I know, too, you've done a bit of off-road racing, the stadium super trucks in your time. No jumps in Super Utes. How are you going with just flat track running? No jumps for these things to deal with.
Yeah, I do look for the jumps sometimes, but, yeah, I'm definitely starting to get my head around with this whole tarmac thing. I didn't do too much asphalt racing prior to that. I've been mainly an off-road background, but I've got a coach, Nation from Reaction Performance in Melbourne, who's been helping me along the way. He came on at Bathurst last year, and we've really starting to gel well now, and things are looking forward. Our times and everything, and our positioning, racecraft, it's just all coming together. So, yeah, excited to see what the rest of the year holds for us.
Good to catch up, Dave. Well played this weekend. First round of the V8 Super Utes in Perth, 7th overall in the Bendix Racing Isuzu D-Max. All the best for the rest of the year.
Yeah, mate, no worries. Speak again soon.
There he is, Dave Casey, here on SEN for Bendix, the best known brakes, as we get ready to let the Supercars loose for their final race of the weekend, the 9th race of 2018. This year's Repco Supercars Championship. And James Moffat's with me here on SEN Supercars as we look forward. And I guess the big question here is, Moff, can anybody beat Erebus? Because in the race earlier today, Will Brown a win, Brodie Kostecki second. Daylight was, James Courtney was third, but Daylight could have been between them. They look really strong, and they're in strong qualifying spots for this last race.
Well, that's exactly right. They were absolutely dominant for race 8 of the championship. As you say, though, they are in another strong position for race 9. Kostecki coming out of second, and Will Brown, our race 8 winner, out of position 3. The man best placed to take it to those Erebus Coca-Cola Camaros is Brock Feeney. So his second pole position for the year. He comes off a race victory at the Australian Grand Prix. So he's had a bit of an up and down weekend up until this point, but he's well placed to capitalise on his pole position for race 9 of the championship.
And just to bring everybody up to speed with the way that the championship sits, Brodie Kostecki is on top, 698. Chaz Mostert is now second on 610. Shane Van Gisbergen, reigning champion, third on 602. Will Brown, that win earlier today, he's fourth on 521. And then it's Andre Heimgartner, the Kiwi, on 466. Brock Feeney, our pole sitter for this upcoming race, is sixth in the championship, 464. Top 10 completed by Cam Waters, Dave Reynolds, Jack LeBrock, and Will Davison for the Shell V-Power team, although he is now pretty much a full weekend behind in terms of the points, just 3 rounds into the championship season, 299 down on Brodie Kostecki. 100 points to win each of the races this weekend, 5 bonus points in play for the fastest lap of the race, and that's I like that. That's something that we do in the sprint races. We don't do it in the longer refueling races like we had in Newcastle. I reckon if you're going to give bonus points for fastest laps, you should give them in all the races. I reckon it shouldn't just be the sprints.
Yeah, exactly right. So it certainly adds another element to the championship points as the year goes on, and we saw last year Shane Van Gisbergen in those sprint rounds, he really prioritised going for those extra bonus points for the fastest laps, and he's one to really talk about for race 9 of the championship, coming out of 21st position for this one. So that's not usually a starting position. We were late Shane Van Gisbergen and car 97 too. So the other man to watch for in this race after his podium in race 8, James Courtney. Bit of a lowly qualifying in 14th for him. He's had a strong weekend up until this point, so he'll be looking to move forward too. So a couple of guys buried deep in the field to keep an eye on.
I think we get asked a lot about the old days of supercar racing where you would start the race how you finished the previous one, but this is proof that this multiple qualifying sessions that determine the grid for each individual race really do allow us to have a great mix-up. And it also means you can recover a weekend if you've perhaps been punted off the road in the first race. It wasn't your fault. In the past, your weekend was spent just trying to get back to where you were. Now qualifying means that not everyone nails it all the time. And the thing we're seeing with this new era of Gen 3 supercar this year, the Camaros and the Mustangs, it's really hard to be consistent week in, week out. There's been no one who has been at the pointy end each and every time, bar Brodie Kostecki, and that's why he leads the points.
Well, I think you mentioned it in race 8 of the championship that we covered earlier this afternoon. He's been on the podium in every single race bar one so far, so there's no surprise that he sits atop of the championship, and he's well placed to extend his championship lead when race 9 gets underway. But you're right. And the other thing with Perth and Wanneroo Raceway is the margins are so small. So if you're just off a little bit in qualifying, which clearly Shane Van Gisbergen was for this race, it's easy to find yourself down in the 20s.
A little way to take a look before we get into this 9th race. 8 races down in the championship, just the one win for Ford so far. That was Cam Waters, the first race of the season in Newcastle. Of course, Shane Van Gisbergen did cross the line first, but was excluded for that the old icebox trick where it was in the wrong place according to the rules. We saw a great fight between Shane and Brodie Kostecki yesterday, but Shane bounced back in Newcastle, won the first race, the last race there, won the first race at Albert Park. Brodie Kostecki put together the wins on the Friday and the Saturday, and Brock Feeney won the Sunday, and now into Wanneroo in Perth, and Shane Van Gisbergen and Will Brown have shared the wins so far. So it's been all bow ties, Chevy Camaros that have been doing the winning, but the Fords have been not too far away in terms of the number of them in the front part of the grid is pretty solid this weekend. They just haven't quite had it in terms of converting it.
And to add to that point, we've got 5 Mustangs and 5 Camaros in the top 10 starting spots for race 9. So perfectly even in terms of representation from the two brands. And I think so far the trend that we've seen from the Mustangs is their one-lap qualifying speed has been there or thereabouts. But the Camaros perhaps look a bit stronger in race pace or race trim. So that could be a number of different factors. But, clearly the Mustangs as a package probably still have a bit of work to do to manage the tyres more efficiently over a race distance.
We've got a field of 25 cars set to go at Wanneroo, counting down towards race start time, which will be in about 15 minutes when we'll let them loose around the 2.4 kilometre Wanneroo circuit. It's over the years been a regular part of the Supercars Championship, and first hosted the championship way back in 1973. It was Alan Moffat in a HO Falcon versus Peter Brock in an XU1 Tirana. The glory days of touring car racing in the 70s. And it was 5 years, though, after that before the championship went back to Perth in the late 70s. And then it's been a part of the calendar pretty much ever since. I think there was 1 year in 2009. It didn't have a round. And, of course, a couple of years because of COVID, but back last year. And it's a wonderful pace. And that's one of the things about supercars that is fantastic. It's truly a national sport. So going to Western Australia massive fan base over there. They've got a very strong motorsport history with Wanneroo. It's pretty much, it's not the only track, but it's the only track of note over there. But there is a thriving motorsport automotive industry. It's where Daniel Ricciardo's from. They love their racing in the West, and this is their chance to get the main game there.
And we have images now of the pre-race grid walk, and there are hundreds of people out there enjoying getting up close to not only the drivers but the cars themselves before they set off for race 9. And it's really a unique part of, I guess, Supercars racing is that fans and sponsors get the opportunity to get out on the track and experience everything up close and personal with all the stars.
And it's something you just don't get in other sports. It's a really unique scenario, and I think it's one of the things that Supercars drivers are commonly viewed at from other sports as well. They're pretty amazing with some of the stuff that they do and the access that they give to the fans and the sponsors, and it's a really important part of why Supercars stands out in the Australian and Kiwi sporting landscape. It really is a great part to it all. So we're nearly towards the end of the third round of the championship. This is the end of round 3 today of 12. So we're a quarter of the way, would you believe it, through the championship when you look at it from that lens. But there are still so many racing kilometres to go. Big marquee events at the back end of the year with Sandown, Bathurst, the 2 endurance races, 2 drivers in each car. You'll be back with Tickford Racing in one of their Mustangs later on in the year. It feels like we haven't gone very far in this championship, but we talked about this earlier in the day. Erebus, they are now the real deal. They have performed on 3 different types of tracks, 3 different weekends, 3 different scenarios, and they've delivered every time. Brodie Kostecki's there, Will Brown's there as well. They lead the team's championship, and they're 1st and 4th in the drivers' points. This is probably, you've really got to look at the Penske era with Scott McLaughlin. Triple Eight generally get off to cracking starts in seasons. Take out that disqualification from Newcastle and, you add those points back in and they're up the front there. But they've been challenged. They've been legitimately challenged here, and I'm really interested to see what they can do to bounce back here with 1 car at the front and 1 car near the back.
Yeah, exactly right. And, the thing with the Erebus, their start to the season is it's not just one of their cars, it's both cars, both Brodie and Will Brown. They're fighting for race wins, they're fighting for pole positions, they're at the front of the field, and that's, you can see, really driving that team forward. They have definitely come out as the benchmark team at the moment. You can never discount Triple Eight and Red Bull Ampol Racing. Obviously, Brock Feeney's got a fantastic opportunity ahead of himself for this race coming up, starting from pole position. But, yes, so far, it's those Coke Camaros that are setting the pace, and everybody's trying to chase them down.
That's going to be the case in this one. 42 laps. It's another 100 kilometres, clear blue sky, beautiful conditions for racing in Western Australia. And the field of 25, it's a nice blend. We've got 11 Mustangs, 14 Camaros. Of course, a new era this year with the Chevrolet Camaro now replacing the Holden Commodore, which has been a staple part of the diet for supercars, V8 supercars, Australian touring cars, whichever label that you would want to put on it. It's a little bit of a change this year, but still that same traditional battle between General Motors and between Ford. So we're going to get this race started pretty soon, about 12 minutes away from race time in Western Australia. The drivers are on the grid with their cars, the crews as well. This is going to be an interesting one because we've got the form drivers and the form teams probably in about the right order of speed that we've seen this weekend with the way that they've qualified for this race. But Van Gisbergen, he's the story, 21st on the grid. Mark Winterbottom rounds out the field in 25th. Of course, he is the 2015 Supercars champion, Bathurst winner in 2013, and man of the moment yesterday, becoming just the 3rd driver in championship history to hit 600 championship races. But he's got a long way to come from 25th on the grid. We're not too far away. Race 9 of the Repco Supercars Championship on SEN. We'll take a break. Race start very soon.
Join the conversation. Call 1300 01 1170 or send us a text on 0457 736 736. This is SEN Supercars.
Polaris end of financial year deals are on now with great savings across the range. Get $1,000 free accessories on the 2-seat Ranger 570, the 3-seat Ranger Northstar and the 6-seat Ranger Northstar Crew. Get $2,000 free accessories on the upgraded 23 Ranger Diesel and a whopping $3,000 free accessories on the Ranger XP1000. On top of that, finance is also available to approved purchases at a 6.99% rate. Don't miss out. See your local Polaris dealer. Polaris. Think outside.
This is Bruno driving to the footy. And this is his cheap insurer reading the policy fine print.
Clause 9D of your car insurance says you're not covered for thingamybobs.
Thingamy-bobbed at claim time? Beware bargain insurance regret, Bruno. Choose Amy instead. Who pays out over 99% of motor claims? Amy does.
Lucky you're with Amy.
Acceptance rate for the 12 months up to 30 September 2022. Before buying insurance issued by Amy, read the TMD and PDS at amy.com.au and consider if it's right for you.
After the big game, every sports fan deserves to kick back and relax, and what better way to do that than with a mattress from OMF. Get ready to unwind in style with the ultimate in comfort and relaxation. So, what are you waiting for? Head on over to OMF and check out their game-changing range of mattresses. Shop online or at over 50 locations nationwide, 100% Australian designed and owned. Where comfort meets sport.
Your Round 7 AFL record is packed with a 24-page matchday section, plus the return of selected teams and player lists. We interview Western Bulldogs superstar Marcus Bontempelli ahead of his 200th game this weekend. And we pose the question, could the Bont become the greatest Bulldog of all? Plus, don't miss our Answer Man with our stats experts, kids page and more. Brought to you by Signet. Power every moment with Signet. The AFL record, Round 7 print edition. Just $6 at all venues.
I tell you, kids these days, they don't know the meaning of bargain hunting. Back in my day, I would sleep outside the store all night. No tent. And then once you got in, I still have a scar from a stock take sale back in 91. But these days, with Kogan Mobile, you can sign up for the best value gigs per buck while sitting on the toilet. Talk about a bargain. Get one at koganmobile.com.au.
If you're in the market for a quality Australian manufactured shed, contact Best Sheds today and take advantage of their up to 20% off sale. They've got the best sheds in the business, and their sheds come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and come with a 20-year manufacturer's warranty. Choose from the standard range or customise the shed of your dreams and save with Best Sheds up to 20% off sale. Save big at Best Sheds, 100% Australian owned and manufactured. Visit bestsheds.com.au.
With lower disposable incomes coupled with high inflation, it's more important than ever to make your money work harder for you. Why not consider La Trobe Financial's award-winning 12-month term account, returning a current variable rate of 5.75% per annum after fees. Invest today with La Trobe Financial, a trusted name for 70 years.
The rate of return is reviewed monthly, is not guaranteed and may decrease. Credit fund investment is not a bank deposit. Before investing, consider the PDS from La Trobe Financial Asset Management Limited. To view their awards, PDS and target market determination, visit latrobefinancial.com.au or call 13 80 10.
For our great game, Aussie Rules, since 1912, the AFL record has been its most iconic publication. The cries of "Record, get your record!" are etched into our game day ritual. We buy one on the way into the match, mark down the goal kickers, then some of us tuck it away as a keepsake. You can be part of this AFL match day experience. Job opportunities are available as an AFL record seller as well as sales supervisors. Go to aflrecord.com.au and click on careers to express your interest right now.
Join the conversation. Call 1300 01 1170 or send us a text on 0457 736 736. This is SEN Supercars.
Yeah, and we're going to head back to Perth very shortly. 18-16, 11 minutes remaining. The Bulldogs just lead against the Dragons in the NRL. In the AFL, Richmond closing fast on the Gold Coast in the fourth quarter, 10-3-63. The Suns, the Tigers, 6-12-48. And in the other match, in the AFL, Adelaide 3-10-28, leading Collingwood 2-4-16. That's in the second quarter. Already, Will Brown has won race 8 over there in Perth. A real fillip for Team Erebus, 1-2 for them. Let's take you back to Perth with James Moffat and Aaron Noonan for coverage of race 9.
Jimmy, the cars are on the grid. Drivers are just bolting themselves in and getting set for another 100 kilometres of racing. 42 laps ahead, Moff. And Brock Feeney, the young gun, last year's Adelaide 500 winner, will start from pole position alongside our championship leader, Brodie Kostecki. Will Brown on the inside of row 2. That's a good place to be, on the inside into that right-handed first corner, because it's bad news. If you're hung out there, you might lose another couple of spots in that run up the hill through those flip-flop S's before you get to turn 4.
And, Brock Feeney, he's only in his second year of Supercars competition, but he's proven that he has what it takes to win these races. Obviously a 2-time race winner, picked up his first win the last race of last race of Gen 2, if you like, at Adelaide 500 last year. It was a great drive, and only recently just picked up his second win at the Australian Grand Prix. So he's got it all ahead of him, and he's got a couple of fast competitors on the grid around him in Kostecki and Brown. But, he'll definitely be focusing on getting us off the line as clean as possible. He's in the best position, but he'll have plenty of threats around him.
Just a little one too, as the drivers are getting ready to run race start in about 4 minutes' time. And let's take a look at the weather, the track outs. We're going, look, good news, blue sky, no chance of rain in the west for today's race. Our weather and track with thanks to Polaris, Australia's #1 selling side-by-side brand. Air temp at the moment, 22 degrees at Wanneroo, which is about 50 minutes outside Perth. It's not in Perth, but it's near enough to Perth. Track conditions, 27 degrees, so that means cabin temps inside these supercars of around a toasty 44 degrees or thereabouts at the moment. Humidity sitting at 45%. That's with thanks to Polaris Off-Road. Weather and track as we get ready to rumble in this 9th race of the championship, 3rd race of the weekend. And the Chevys are 1, 2, 3 on the grid. Feeney, Kostecki and Brown. Best of the Fords is David Reynolds. And James, he's been fast all weekend, qualified well for every race, but it's been a little bit of a struggle. I mean, a solid podium yesterday. He was kind of the guy who closed in behind that war between Kostecki and Van Gisbergen. He had contact earlier in today's race when Anton De Pasquale was trying to pass him, was passing him at turn 7, but made contact, ran too wide, locked up and pushed David off the road. He got a penalty. He's going to start 18th for this race. But Dave Reynolds in 4th has been the shining light for Ford this weekend in that Penrite Mustang for the Grove team.
Yeah, he certainly has. They've done a great job. And we just actually heard some comments from Dave between the two races. And he's just looking for a little bit more life out of his tyres. If he can manage to do that, he should be a real chance to take it to these guys in the Camaros ahead of him. But, their one-lap pace over the weekend has been strong. Picked up that podium, as you mentioned yesterday. And the big difference that the teams and drivers are going to have to take into consideration for this final race of the weekend is we're into the afternoon, late afternoon. The UV is dropping over there in Perth. So the track conditions are coming back to the teams in terms of being a bit more favourable. The first race we saw today was, right in the middle of the day where, the track's very greasy, if you like. And, the cars are going to feel a bit better for the drivers out there in this final race.
So let's recap the way that they'll line up for race 9. It's Feeney and Kostecki on row 1, Brown and Reynolds row 2, then Davison and Tim Slade, Chaz Mostert 7th from Thomas Randall, Cameron Waters, Nick Percat round out the 10. Better run for Nick Percat in that NTI Mustang. Scott Pye, solid qualifying, 11th. Cameron Hill, young rookie, starting 12th in the Truck Assist car. That's his best qualifying. Todd Hazelwood has been pacey all weekend. He comes from 13th on the grid. James Courtney, podium earlier in the day. He's from 14th. Then Andre Heimgartner and Matthew Payne. So a pair of Kiwis, Moff, back on row 8 of the grid.
And they'll be followed off the line by Jack LeBrock and Anton De Pasquale out of 17 and 18 respectively. James Golding struggled all weekend in qualifying. He'll be out of 19th alongside Declan Fraser in the Tradie Mustang.
Shane Van Gisbergen, 21st. We'll keep an eye on the reigning champion. He lines up alongside Bryce Forward in the Middies Brad Jones Racing Camaro, and then more Brad Jones cars. Macaulay Jones, 23rd. Jack Smith is 24th. And Mark Winterbottom, car 600 this weekend, a number change from the regular 18. He is in car 600 because yesterday his 600th championship race. This is now his 602nd championship race. They haven't updated the number, though, for Winterbottom today. He stays with 600. So we're ready to roll. Cars on the grid. Drivers ready. 42 laps, 100 kilometres with a compulsory pit stop for a tyre change. And James, all weekend we've seen 2 tyres, which is the minimum requirement to be changed. No one strayed away and tried 3 or 4 because it costs more time. Yes, it gives you maybe an advantage on the track later on, but this being the last race, it's a case of what tyres have you got left to play the game with?
Exactly right. So we touched on it earlier before. There's obviously a number of different strategies you can go with, what period of the race you choose to make your pit stop, but in the first 2 races of the weekend, as you said, Noons, 2 tyres, particularly down the left-hand side of the car, has been the norm. But will somebody go out on a limb and choose to take 4 tyres in the final race of the weekend?
I think it would be pretty limish to do that. You'd be out on that limb and it might be snapping underneath you as you try to dance with that strategy. And it is really, I mean, it's 210 metres the run from the front of the grid to turn 1. So there's not much time to sort it out between them. But it's going to be some of the young guns of Supercars. Brock Feeney, the man who replaced Jamie Whincup. What big shoes to fill. He filled the boots pretty well last year. Yeah, pretty big. Size 16s, I'd say. They're pretty, a lot of championships and Bathurst wins in those boots. These days, Whincup is the team principal for Red Bull Ampol Racing. He's actually been racing this weekend in Perth in a Mercedes GT car. Keeps his eye in before he lines up as Brock's co-driver for those all-important races. Later in the year, Sandown and Bathurst, but we're in very much sprint mode in the Repco Supercars Championship. Cars are on the warm-up lap. Right, left, weaving side to side to get some heat and temperature into the Dunlop tyres, into the brakes, and then they can line up for this race. 42 laps. It is going to be a really fast sprint. They do have to manage the tyres here, but we've seen this weekend the Gen 3 era car has been pretty good on the rubber. It hasn't been too bad like we've seen in previous years in Perth where, wow, the tyres have just fallen away. We haven't really had to talk too much about tyre wear. It's been more about the strategy of when you stop.
And the man really to watch in this race for me, Noons, is Shane Van Gisbergen coming out of 21st. How far can he get through the field? He still has to think about the championship, so he'll want to keep it neat and tidy, get as many points as he can, but at the same time, we know he leaves nothing on the table.
Last few cars are rolling in, so it's Brock Feeney inside of row 1. Red Bull Camaro. Winterbottom at the back is just lining up in 25th grid position. Official at the back with the green flag. That is the signal to the starter to start the sequence. It's Supercars on SEN, ready to rumble at Western Australia. Feeney and Kostecki on the front row of the grid. Championship leader on the outside has made a solid jump. Will Brown, row 2. He's a comfortable third on the run in. Cars off the road in the background. Looks like Jack LeBrock. Cameron Hill, in fact, who's gone through the grass, but it's Feeney. He leads on the exit of turn 1. Kostecki, Brown, Reynolds is next. Under fire from Tim Slade, Will Davison, Thomas Randall and Chaz Mostert. Nose to tail. Lap 1 of 42. Brock Feeney, though, with clear air, the young gun for Red Bull Ampol Racing. They're off and rolling in race 9.
Nice job by Brock Feeney. He did what he had to. He maintained his lead into turn 1. It was actually Kostecki who got the initial jump. Slightly better than Feeney, but he didn't have enough to carry that momentum around the outside. But so far, all the cars cleanly through the opening lap here for race 9 at Wanneroo.
Feeney with the margin. The rest of them are trying to make up some ground early on. James Golding's moving through. Declan Fraser's been hit from behind on the exit of turn 7. The Tickford Tradie Mustang spun around. He'll flip it around and get going again, but he's way back now. He's last as Van Gisbergen is running around the outside of turn 1, trying to round up Jack LeBrock, but he hasn't been able to really move his way forward. The reigning champ still runs in 21st, but it's his young gun teammate, Brock Feeney, leading the way. 3/4 of a second margin back to Brodie Kostecki. Then it's Will Brown, David Reynolds. We're on lap 2 at Wanneroo. And now Feeney is in control. The question is, how's his car speed compared to those Coca-Cola Camaros? Because they've been the best for speed all weekend, and they're in another strong spot. End of lap 2. Feeney, 55.76 flying lap time. But Kostecki's going to work. He's already taken a couple of tenths. It's Feeney, Kostecki, Brown, Reynolds. Slade is 5th. Great start in the Noonan Camaro. Davison, Randall, lost at Waters, Percat. The Fords, P4 and P6 to 10, but it's the Camaros that are 1, 2, 3. But James, Reynolds is going with them. He's hanging on to the back of Will Brown, his old team, Erebus Motorsport. He's with Penrite Grove Racing now, and he's leading the way for the Blue Oval.
He is, but Will Brown all over the back of his teammate Kostecki now. We saw that he had such a fantastic car in the opening race today. So what do Erebus do here? Do they let Brown go and go after Feeney? And Brown up the inside now on his teammate into turn 7. A nice move there. Looked like Brodie was onto what was happening there and let him through without too much of a fight. So Brown now, can he reel in Feeney, who's got almost a second on the field?
Great start for Brock Feeney. We're taking a look at a replay of the start just to analyse who is where.
Time penalty to car 34.
And going to be a penalty too, we're hearing, for Jack LeBrock, car 34. He was the one that got into the back of Declan Fraser that we called on the exit of turn 7. And it was a really good jump from Feeney. From pole position, didn't bog it down too much, took advantage of that inside running to turn 1. Had a little bit of a bump on the way in there, but managed to control it and bring it through under pressure from Kostecki. Reynolds really didn't quite make the jump, and he slotted straight to the inside of the track to cover them off. But that meant he was open for Tim Slade to try to go round the outside. He got the spot back, and we're picking up a replay here. It was LeBrock up on the curb on the inside of turn 7, just tagged the back of Declan Fraser, last year's Super 2 Series winner. And a penalty is going to go to Jack LeBrock, who otherwise had a pretty good year in the Truck Assist Camaro. 15-second time penalty will be at his pit stop, so they'll service his car, change his tyres, drop him on the deck, and he will wait for 15 seconds. That stings.
And seeing the images of the replay there of the incident between LeBrock and Fraser, Shane Van Gisbergen, very lucky not to get caught up in that as well. He had to take evasive action, run behind the exit curb to turn 7, so narrowly avoiding some trouble there for Van Gisbergen, who currently sits in 19th after 5 laps in the final race of the weekend here in Perth.
And Brown's going to work, James. He's just set a new fastest lap, 55.71. Half a second margin now between he and our race leader, Brock Feeney. We're working lap 6 of 42 at Wanneroo, and those first few laps are when the moves are made, and from here on in, the drivers are just starting to settle in because they need to make their tyres last before that first pit stop when they come on through the Repco pit lane. And we would expect, I mean, you look back to the race earlier in the day, 42 laps of who pitted when and where and how and why. I mean, Will Brown, who ended up winning the race, he came in on lap 26, so he went a bit further past half race distance, but he had the pace to control the race. So you'd expect he's going to go and race Feeney now because he's got speed and he may as well have an attack if he gets close enough.
Well, he knows he's got a strong car underneath him after his performance earlier today, and he is on the back of Feeney now, so he is showing the pace of that number 9 Camaro is still there, so he's doing a great job going after Feeney. And it's Slade who's all over the back of Reynolds for this fight for 4th. So he's, after a few gear selection dramas in the previous race, Slade showing some really good early speeds so far.
And James, that issue for him with the gear shift was basically the mounting cage where the gear shift sits snapped away from the chassis of the car. He had to virtually grab a hold of it underneath to change the gears and change them in the opposite way to how it normally would go with the stick. So Tim Slade up and running well. Newland Camaro sits in position 5. He drives for the Premier Racing Team. Peter Shiveris, the top fuel racer, turned supercar team owner. 2-car team and pressing along very nicely as Slade keeps this pressure on David Reynolds. Feeney, though, is our leader. We're on lap 8 of 42 at Wanneroo. It's Brown next from Kostecki, Reynolds, Slade, Will Davison is 6th. Thomas Randall 7th. 8th is Chas Mostert. 9th is Cam Waters. And Nick Percat for Walkinshaw Andretti United runs in 10th. So 2 cars in the 10 for the Melbourne-based team that formerly was the Holden Racing team. Now Ford Mustang team. Walkinshaw Andretti United. Scott Pye, he's just outside the 10 in 11th. Cam Hill, the rookie, doing a great job in 12th. Then it's Todd Hazelwood, Andre Heimgartner and James Golding. Top 15 as they sit. Van Gisbergen update, he's 19th. He's made up just 2 spots in the early part of this race. He's 10.5 seconds away from his teammate who leads the way.
Yeah, so minimal progress from Van Gisbergen in the early stages of this race, which, is a little bit unusual, but we've also seen in the past he is the master of looking after his tyres and getting the most out of them. So it's still a long way to go in this race. Some really tight little battle packs forming early on, but it's Brown who's still putting a reasonable amount of pressure on Feeney out front. Kostecki a couple of seconds back, so Brodie looks like he might be struggling just a little bit with the balance of his Coca-Cola Camaro early on in this race.
We're on lap 9, the 42. Great to have you with us on SEN Supercars, and there's a bit of rumbling going on back in the pack because Matt Payne, the young Kiwi, has just been passed by Anton De Pasquale. The Shell V-Power Mustang moves on by, but he's in 17th now. Van Gisbergen is lining up on young Matt Payne, the Kiwi, who's in his first year in the Repco Supercars Championship. Was in the Super 2 Series last year, and now he's up against the best in the game because SVG is down the inside at turn 1. Got the move done, and wait for LeBrock. He's trying to come on through the open door. Won't get it done, but Van Gisbergen now is 18th. His teammate Feeney leads the way. 0.6 of a second is the margin back to Will Brown. But it's Feeney in control here in the West. We'll take a break on SEN. More Supercars in just a sec.
Join the conversation. Call 1300 01 1170 or send us a text on 0457 736 736. This is SEN Supercars.
All right out there? You sounding good? It's great to be here. There's a few of you. All right, are we going to have some fun? How do you feel? How do you feel? I feel like a tourist. I feel like a tourist. I feel like a tourist.
If you work in the manufacturing and engineering space, you can't afford to miss Australian Manufacturing Week, May 9 to 12. This annual event showcases all the latest innovations, technologies and equipment recently developed in the manufacturing and precision engineering sectors. Witness technological excellence firsthand while networking with industry leaders and technology experts all under the one roof. Don't miss Australian Manufacturing Week, Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre, May 9 to 12. Admission is free. Register to attend at australianmanufacturingweek.com.au.
Looking for great parts for your car? Then here's the smart thing to do. Head to automotivesuperstore.com.au. There, you simply enter your rego and enjoy knowing that the parts you are seeing are only the parts that fit your car. Very simple, very smart, very reassuring. You'll also love that we only sell quality products and we sell them at great prices. Make the smart move and head online to Automotive Superstore today. Automotive Superstore. Smart as.
Signet is ready for this round of footy. The optimism for your team's prospects.
The excitement of game day.
The march through the turnstile.
The team colours littered through the stadiums.
Are all ruined when you see your mobile in the red zone of battery life. So come on, don't be caught out this season. Get yourself a Signet power bank and make Signet part of your game day ritual. Power every moment with a Signet power bank. Available at major retailers and Signet.com.
Ringers Western fans, footy is back. So whether you're on the field or in the field, they've got you covered with sportswear and apparel to get you decked out for the big game. Check out their exclusive range of boots and work shirts to suit your individual country style, along with all your sportwear footwear including caps, t-shirts and so much more. Ringers Western has the perfect fit to suit your style from paddock to pub. Ringers Western, your partner in sport. Check out ringerswestern.com.
Hey neighbour, have you got a new mower?
Yep, it's a Toro. Just like the brand they use on the legendary St Andrews and Wimbledon.
Wow.
It adapts to my walking speed thanks to the personal pace feature, and it even recycles the clippings back into the lawn to restore its nutrients. Oh, I've got to get mowing. The match is about to start. Get the home ground advantage with Toro Walk Power Mowers. Available at Bunnings Warehouse and your local Toro dealer. You can count on Toro.
Oh, you could see the headlines now. Ben Hannett and Josh Morris, the legends, returning to Origin.
Benny, mate, we're retired and you're out of shape.
Nah, champ, we're entering the Coates State of Hire. Check this out.
Experience State of Origin like never before on the Coates VIP deck.
Yep, including flights, accommodation and more.
And it says all we have to do to enter is spend $250 on equipment hire?
Yep, let's go.
Shotgun driving.
To enter, visit coatesstateofhire.com.au.
Watch the world's best battle it out from May 6th to 13th for the Boost Mobile Gold Coast Pro presented by GWM. This is the first stop on the Challenger Series. Competitors from all over the world will come to battle it out to see who can qualify for the championship tour. The Boost Mobile Gold Coast Pro, May 6th to 13, presented by GWM. Catch all the action live on worldsurfleague.com or get to the beach.
Join the conversation. Call 1300 01 1170 or send us a text on 0457 736 736. This is SEN Supercars.
Great to have you with us. Action continuing from Perth, Western Australia. We're on lap 15 of 42. It's race 9 of the championship, and James Courtney in the Tickford Snowy River Caravans Mustang has just been into the Repco pit lane. With thanks to Repco, you can rely on your local Repco authorised service centre. He's back on track at the moment. Feeney continues to lead the way. Brock Feeney, the Red Bull Ampol Camaro, 1.2 seconds the margin. He's built it now back to Will Brown. Brodie Kostecki still running third, the championship leader. David Reynolds, best of the Fords. He's in fourth, but there's plenty of rumbles, James Moffat, going on. Back in the pack, Heimgartner's on a move. He's making a lunge on Anton De Pasquale for 14th place. In front of him, Shane Van Gisbergen's now 13th, but we have had 5 cars take their compulsory pit stop. All the cars need to take a stop for tyres in this race, but it's a question of when do you take it, because the compulsory pit stop window is open, but it is pretty wide in how long you've got to take it.
That's right, and we saw the first car to take their opportunity to get that compulsory pit stop out of the way was actually Tim Slade. He peeled off from position 5. He was tucked up behind David Reynolds. Looked like he had a bit more speed on Reynolds, so the Noonan team there electing to pit Slade very early, lap 11, so he's got a long way to go on the rest of his tyres, but they would have chosen to do that to get Slade out in clean air, and hopefully he can punch out some quick lap times and manage his tyres as best as he can. One car that's really dropping through the field at the moment is Thomas Randall. He looks like he's got a real battle on his hands in the Castrol Mustang. He's down 4 spots from his starting spot, but it's Van Gisbergen who is now beginning to move forward and picking his competitors off one by one.
See, Randall is having drama. He's moving off the track on the exit of turn 5. He's been, as you said, sinking like a stone in the last couple of laps, and he's lost 6 seconds in the first sector. So there's a major problem with the Castrol Mustang, and all the drivers are lighting up on their radios about their rear tyres. They're out for lunch. Well, afternoon tea, dinner time, depending on what part of the country that you're in. They're struggling. They really would love to get to the pit lane, to Repco pit lane, and get them off and get some other rubber on. And as we say that, De Pasquale is peeling in now in the Shell V-Power car. But Feeney controlling the race. 1.2 seconds here to Will Brown. Brodie Kostecki hasn't got the pace at the moment to go with them. He's dropped back a couple of seconds here, but you've got to manage the tyres because you really want to get deeper into this race for a short run home. That's what they're really aiming for here, because by this stage of the weekend, and this is by design in the way that the tyre allocation is, you don't want the teams having way too many tyres. You want them having to juggle, be on the hop and try to figure out the best of what they've got left for the run of the end.
Yeah, so most of the cars would have their best dirty sets on. Their best dirty tyres, if that makes sense.
It's like reusing the T-shirt from yesterday, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not quite fresh.
It's really who's got the best condition of rubber left. And, yeah, Thomas Randall now, we've got images of him in the garage, so major problems for him in the 55 Castrol Mustang. We saw that he was dropping rapidly through the field, and obviously more of a major problem, unfortunately, for the guys down at Tickford Racing there.
So we're approaching half race distance in Wanneroo, race 9 of 28 for this year's Repco Supercars Championship. At 19 of 42, 100-kilometre race, and it's settled into a bit of a rhythm now. Feeney in control, pacing the field quite nicely. There's been a bit of movement in the mid-pack. A couple of cars that have been moving forward, a few have sunk back. A lot of them are struggling with the rear tyres. Remember that these are brand new cars this year. All of the data from previous years of racing at Wanneroo is pretty much redundant. It means nothing to how the speed and the tyre wear of their cars will be for this year's race. And don't forget too, there were 2 years where the championship didn't go to Wanneroo because of COVID. 2019, big gap to 2022, and now the game has been changed with the all-new cars this year. But it's Feeney who is really controlling, and hearing word that this Thomas Randall issue in that Castrol Mustang, it's a gear shift mechanism issue. Straight to the garage, as James reported before. So that might be a bit similar to what was going on for Tim Slade earlier in the day, because that will be it's a control component of these cars. Everyone's got the same. So that's something to keep an eye on over the course of the remainder of this one. But Feeney leads lap 20 at the moment. But a young Matt Payne, the Kiwis, just picked up a spot on another Kiwi, Andre Heimgartner. So the Kiwis are hanging out together. Van Gisbergen 12th. He's down the road from this fight between Payne and Heimgartner. And now Heimgartner and Payne are going to run side by side on the run over the hill, down the hill to turn 7. Payne hangs on for the spot. His teammate David Reynolds sits in third place.
It's good to see the Kiwis battling for a position a bit further down the field than what we're used to. Normally we've
spoken like a true Aussie supercar driver.
But as we talk about that, Kostecki has taken his pit stop, so 2 loaded-sided left-hand side tyres, I should say, for Kostecki and the Coke Camaro. I almost said Mustang again.
Oh well, when your name's Moffat, it's a fair mistake to make.
But so he's elected to split this race in half. So lap 21, Kostecki comes out of the pits in position 18, but that will change as everybody cycles through their pit stop. So he's got the compulsory pit stop out of the way. What has he got left for the remaining 21 laps in this race?
And in the earlier race today, he pitted prior to Will Brown, James. Remember, we were thinking, well, he's going to undercut him here, but his pace wasn't strong enough in that part of the race between when he pitted and when Will Brown pitted. David Reynolds now is in the Repco pit lane. Remember that you can rely on your local Repco authorised service centre. He's going to rely on the Grove Racing team, though, because they're ready on standby. Left side tyres, wheel gun on, wheel gun off. Yeah, solid stop, pretty solid. Reynolds is back out into the fast lane. He goes around the Thomas Randall Castrol car that's been put back into the lane from its garage. He's going to come out behind Brodie Kostecki and in front of Will Davison, who pitted on the same lap as Brodie. So he slots in right between those two, pretty much same margin in front to Kostecki as it is to behind Will Davison. Brock Feeney leads the way. 15 cars, the top 15, are yet to take the compulsory pit stop at Wanneroo.
And if you're Brock Feeney, what are you feeling now? What are you trying to do? You're trying to drive the car as straight as possible, as we have some images of Thomas Randall returning to the racetrack. So the guys down there at Tickford have attempted to fix the gear selection issues that he was happening, which is becoming a bit of a common theme across the weekend here in Perth, but does not look like that car is up to speed.
He's trying to stay out of the way of the pack that's flowing its way through. Yeah, he's saying still an issue. So big dramas for Tickford with the Castrol Mustang. But Feeney's taking time away from Will Brown. He's built the margin here, James. 2.1 seconds now on lap 23. He's on his way down the hill. It's a big run down this hill over the crest. And it rises again into the braking area at turn 7. The right-hander that brings them onto the pit straight. And he's staying out there. He and Brown have gone 23 laps now. They're going to go deeper into this race. And it makes sense. They've got track position and they've got pace. Keep using it.
Absolutely. And if a safety car was to come out...
Have you just jinxed it?
Well, you didn't put the commentator's curse on the Erebus cars in the race today, so I'm not going to say that I'll do that with the safety car, but this race could do with a bit of a spice up, if I'm completely honest.
The people who will not be agreeing, Red Bull, Erebus, Well Controls, everyone who's running at the top at the moment, and Feeney is controlling this one. He had his learning year last year, learning new cars, but he's learning them at the same time as everybody else. LeBrock is in pit lane at the moment. He's taking that 15-second time penalty that he earned earlier in the day for contact at the start of this race with Declan Fraser that spun the young Tickford driver around. Fraser is running at the moment in 14th place, but is yet to take his compulsory stop. And Will Brown is in from second place, the end of lap 24. Erebus team is pretty much halfway down the pit lane here. Left side tyres, little delay on the left rear. Probably about a second slower than they would have liked. And he's going to rejoin. We're watching on track to see who he lines up with. The pit exit at Wanneroo was on the inside of the track, and it fans out up into the S's. So Kostecki, his teammate, is side by side with him here. It's close, it's tight, but he makes it out just in front. That was close.
That was very close as you'd want it to be. But in all this pit stop cycle, a man we spoke about not too long ago, first man to dive into the pits, Tim Slade. He has jumped, or what we would call undercut, the two Coke Camaros in the pit stop cycle. But will he pay the price for that early pit stop later in the race?
I reckon he will. I reckon when you've pitted that early, I mean, he pitted, what was it, lap 11?
11, yeah.
Kostecki in on lap 20 and Will Brown in on 24. So it might be looking good at the moment, but that might sting a little later on when the rubber on the Noonan car goes away. That rejoin was tight because Brown was coming out of the pits racing his teammate Brodie Kostecki, and part of the same track at the same time was Declan Fraser. Nick Percat's pitted, Van Gisbergen in now.
And they're going for 4 tyres on Van Gisbergen Noon. So this is the first 4-tyre stop we've seen all weekend.
Now, I was thinking this earlier in the day where Shane didn't really make too much of an impact in that previous race. You'd save up the rubber for when you've qualified worse, and that's this race. So he's cost himself some time here. Longer pit stop, but superior grip in terms of 4 tyres. I think it's pretty much the first person we've seen do that all weekend. So let's see if the reigning champ can dig himself here. This is not about winning the race. This is about maximising a result here and pulling something out of the fire.
Absolutely. And Cam Waters now enters pit lane. So we'll wait to see how many tyres he's going with. Again, looks like 2 left-hand side tyres for the Monster Mustang. Nice, quick, clean pit stop there by the Tickford crew. So he's in and out in no time. And he'll be racing his teammate on pit exit here. So
I always worry when I see Tickford Mustangs on the same piece of track because they have a history, not these 2 drivers, but 2 cars of getting together. But Waters has got out in front of James Courtney. So 10th and 11th. Now it's on. Will Brown is going to pounce on Tim Slade. In the race, it's 5th. But overall, of the cars that have pitted, it is, well, for the lead. But Feeney is still out there. So Mostert and Golding are in. It leaves Feeney and Winterbottom as the only cars yet to pit.
And we're talking about safety cars before Noons. Who's the one bloke in the race now that wants a safety car? Shane Van Gisbergen, as he's taken those 4 tyres. So he'll be praying for one because he'll be in the pound seats if a safety car was to come out.
And the other guy who will be happy with it is Jack LeBrock. Remember, he had that 15-second hold penalty during his pit stop. They did 4 tyres. They also did 4 tyres on the Truck Assist 34 car. So Feeney is in front, but he's 30.4 seconds clear of Will Brown. That's not enough. Not enough to come out in the lead. It's 27 seconds to go down the pit lane at 40 kilometres per hour, which is the pit lane speed limit, plus the time it takes to change the tyre. Jack the car up, change it, and drop it on the deck. He's staying out there, though. Feeney's done 28. Kostecki's now by Slade. Reynolds is going to get him. The Newland strategy of pitting early is not working. He's going to sink in the pack here He's in for a long afternoon, Tim Slade. We're on lap 29.
Yeah, so for Slade, really it's about him holding on as best as he can now. Like we said, they sort of went out on a bit of a limb, pitting so early. Tried something different to the rest of the field, which you can't blame them for. But with Feeney now, still 30.3 seconds ahead of Brown, who is the first car on the track to have pitted. So what they'll be trying to do down at Red Bull Ampol Racing as he peels off, so he'll be trying to go, he was trying to go as long as he could to get more of a tyre offset between himself and Will Brown. So,
and the other thing too, James, is they'll be watching on where he'll drop back out. They don't want him being boxed in by Slade. So the crew is ready. They've got 2 tyres ready for Brock Feeney. He's completed lap 29 as he rolls into the pit lane. Will Brown was 29.9 seconds behind. Brown is at turn 7. He's coming onto the pit straight at the moment. Feeney released. Tyres have been changed for Red Bull Ampol. He's out of the pit lane, but he's got this exit road to go around the inside. He's got to get this up to speed. He's got to come out here. He's in a good spot. He's in clear air, and he's in the lead of the race. Brock Feeney has margin over Will Brown to the tune of, 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, he's maintained his margin, interestingly, out of all that. So, very efficient stop there by the guys down at Red Bull Ampol Racing. Feeney with the 2 tyres down the left-hand side. So, he's in a great spot now. He's got his pit stop done and dusted, and he's got clear track ahead of him. So, 12 laps to go in race 9 of the championship, and it's Brock Feeney who leads the way.
And James, that might have just been that pit stop from Red Bull Ampol Racing. That might have been the Bendix big moment of this race. With thanks to Bendix, you can put your foot down with confidence. Bendix brakes. That might have been the moment that won the race. Picked the right lap to pit with the margin. A really good in lap. Nice speed. Great stop from the crew. And he's got clear air. There's a rumble going on back in the pack here between Scott Pye, who's working over young Cameron Hill. They're fighting for 10th place. Cam Hill, the rookie, is hanging with some of the more experienced drivers here, but he's lost a spot to Pye, and Percat's got through as well.
And for Feeney, pitting so late in the race just means he has the least amount of laps to do on his tyres. So he's in a great spot. I don't want to put the mockers on him, but he's driven a faultless race up until now. His car looks good. He's driving it nice and straight. As we get some footage of James Golding slipping up the inside of Cam Hill at turn 6, and that was for position number 12. So Golding again moving through the field, as we've seen in the previous 2 races across the weekend. His qualifying quite hasn't been there in the new long Camaro, but his race performances have been solid.
So last time around, Brock Feeney a 56.02, Will Brown 56.09, nothing in it, 2.3 seconds between them. Brody Kostecki is another, he's about another 2 seconds down the road in 3rd. Reynolds 4th, Slade is 5th, but for how much longer? Will Davison next, then Chaz Mostert, Cam Waters, James Courtney, and Scott Pye now. The Toyota Forklifts Camaro is up into the 10. First time we've seen him in the top 10 over the course of this weekend. It's been a pretty rough weekend for Team 18, for Charlie Schwerkolt's team. He started from 11th. He's in the 10 at the moment. Just outside is Percat, Golding, Hill. Van Gisbergen is starting to mow through. 14th, the 4-tyre change means he's got great rubber for this run home on lap 33 of 42. So starting to wind down this weekend. And now it's a question of how many can the reigning champ get before we run out of laps.
And that's the thing. So from what we could tell, Van Gisbergen, the only car in the field to have taken 4 tyres. So he'll have a significant grip advantage of the cars around him. So really it is just a matter of how many spots he can pick off in the remaining 9 laps of this race. But it's still Feeney out front, almost a 3-second lead now back to Brown. So for Feeney, it's really just about managing and maintaining that gap back to Brown in 2nd. Kostecki still a further couple of seconds behind his teammate Brown, as Mostert up the inside of Davidson for position at the final corner. So it's Mostert in the Optus Mustang up to position 6.
Bit of a Ford family feud here between Walkinshaw Andretti United and Dick Johnson Racing, that famous number 17, of which Will Davison is behind the wheel of. Feeney is doing to the field, James, what Brown did to them in the previous race earlier today. We called it on SEN. He controlled the race from the front, pitted at the optimal time, and then sat on the margin. And now the margin's 2.9. Feeney looks like he's the real deal in this race. He's controlling the gap back to Will Brown. Brody Kostecki, in terms of the championship, though, sitting third. Okay, he's behind 2 cars. But in terms of the guys he's fighting within the championship point score, he'll put margin on Mostert and Van Gisbergen in this race. 100 points to win this final race of the weekend. A 300-point return for the weekend, but there's 5 bonus points for the fastest lap. And you know who's now got it? Brock Feeney. 2 laps ago, after that pit stop, 55.53. Just nailed it to get the run and then put that time on the board and has breezed it back into the 56s now. He's got this race under control and leads now by 3.2 seconds. He's building the margin on Will Brown with 8 laps to go.
Mostert now all over the back of the struggling Slade, who he'll be holding on for dear life with those tyres that he has in his Camaro, and he slips up the inside.
He doesn't have any tyres left.
He slips up the inside at turn 6, so Slade really starting to battle. He drops down to 6, Mostert up to 5th. So that's 2 position gain for Mostert so far in this race. And you can just imagine, try imagining what it would be like driving on marshmallows on your road car, because that's what these tyres would be feeling like for most of these drivers now as we get towards the back end of the final race of the weekend. Waters putting a lot of pressure on the back of Will Davison for position 7. So he's looking to put a move on Davidson as they pass the still struggling car of Thomas Randall. So he's still got a significant issue with that Castrol Mustang. He's doing the right thing, staying out of the way. Davidson looking at the back of Slade. Can't quite get a move done into turn 6.
So the order as they run at the moment. Lap 36 of 42 at Wanneroo. Feeney the leader. Will Brown second. Brody Kostecki in third. From David Reynolds, Chaz Mostert through to 5th. Slade is hanging on to 6th, but Davison is challenging for it. Down the inside, turn 7, the right-hander onto the pit straight. The shell car's through, and he's bringing Cam Waters along for the ride. The Monster Mustang is down the inside, and Tim Slade, who pitted on lap 11, has got no grip on the outside there to fight with. He's going to have to yield this spot. He drops back to 8th. Courtney's 9th. Pye is 10th. Golding, James Golding, 11th. Nick Percat, 12th. Van Gisbergen is 13th from 21st. On the grid, Hazelwood, Hill, Di Pasquale, Fullwood, Payne, Winterbottom, Macaulay Jones. That's the 20 as they run at the moment with 5 laps left to run.
And last time we reported on that gap for Feeney in the lead, it was 3 seconds. It's now out to 3.9, so he is motoring away from the rest of the field. He really just needs to maintain the gap as Waters with a big lunge up the inside on Davidson at the last corner and gets the move done. That was super aggressive from Waters, and he moves up to P6. So by far the best showing of speed from Cam Waters we've seen this so far this weekend.
Feeney's margin is 4 seconds. The young gun from the Gold Coast is leading the way in the number 88 Red Bull Ampol Camaro. The Camaros are 1-2-3 at the moment. We're catching a replay of Cam Waters putting the move. Will Davison just couldn't get it turned in at the final turn, and Waters said thank you very much. Those two had a controversial issue at that last corner last year where Cam ran around the outside of the curb, crossed the line first, was pinged post-race, and Will Davison picked up the race win. That was for 6th place. So a bit of a recovery mission for Cam Waters. Last year's runner-up in the points is trying to fight back after an otherwise tough weekend. But Feeney in front. We've got 4 laps to go in this 9th race of the 2023 Supercars Championship from Western Australia. And Feeney is just dominating. 4.5 seconds. He's driving away. Well, really the only question mark here, James, is third. Brody Kostecki, has got David Reynolds just 0.8 of a second behind. But with 4 to go, it's going to take something special from Reynolds to be able to get this done.
This is encouraging speed, though, from Reynolds. We've seen him probably been weaker in the back end of the races across the first 2 races of the weekend. So for him to be holding on to the back of Kostecki so late into the race, with only 3 laps to go, is a good improvement for the Penrite Racing Mustang.
Well, he's qualified strongly all weekend. 3rd yesterday, 2nd and 4th for the races today. Podium yesterday. Bit of bad luck earlier in the day. Finished 14th after some contact with Anton De Pasquale. We're on lap 40 of 42. I think one of the questions coming in as we see Brock Feeney now build this margin to 5 seconds.
Oh, back her off, son.
Yeah, there's no need here to go too hard on the way home. The question was this year, how close does Feeney get to Van Gisbergen? He's been closer in the first 3 rounds than I think we probably thought he may have been as they all learn about the Gen 3 car. This is a kid who's won the Super 3 Series, won the Super 2 Series with Triple Eight, took over the seat from Jamie Whincup last year, had some moments where some people wavered and thought, oh, is he the right guy? Has he got what it takes? But he was learning. He put the lessons together. He won the last race in Adelaide. He won a race this year at Albert Park. And this isn't just a win, James, if he pulls this off. With 2 to go, he's led every lap. He's dominated from pole position. That's the perfect type of result. And with the fastest lap and the 5 bonus points. This has been, like Will Brown in the earlier race, completely impeccable.
It's been an absolutely faultless performance. And he's a contender. Make no bones about that. He is a genuine contender for the championship this year. He's taking it to Shane Van Gisbergen, his teammate, who is without doubt the best in the business. And he is really, I guess, driving home the fact that he's more than capable. 5.5 second lead now to the rest of the field. So this has been a tremendous performance.
Not far away from Brock Feeney commencing the last lap. There's a rumble for ninth, though. Courtney, Pye, Golding, they're all into it on the exit of turn 6. Pye trying to get to the inside on his old Walkinshaw teammate, James Courtney.
This has got drama written all over
Courtney is sitting in the middle of the road on the run down the hill to turn 7. Golding's right with them, and look who's coming to catch all 3 of them. Van Gisbergen on that fresh set of tyres. They're rowed up in front fighting one another, but there's a shark in the water called Van Gisbergen who's mowing them down. Our leader, Brock Feeney, is on his last lap at Wanneroo to bring it on home. But it's not sorted. For 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th, they're on their way through the turn 2, 3 S's. And the long, winding left-handed turn 4 that pops them up over the hill for turn 5. And then the run down to turn 6. But Brock Feeney is at the final turn. Impeccable performance. Feeney gets his 2nd win of the season here on SEN Supercars. The young gun has blitzed them in Perth. 6.8 seconds just to rub it in.
Awesome drive, Brock Feeney. Well done.
Brown 2nd, Kostecki 3rd. What a weekend for Erebus and Coca-Cola with the Camaros. But man of the moment, man of the match has got to be Brock Feeney. Courtney will hang on in that rumble for 9th place. It was a steel cage match on the run home. They threw everything at him, but he managed to hang on. But Brock Feeney, James, that was, I reckon that's a better performance just about than Adelaide last year, and that was very good.
Well, that's a big call, but yeah, that was a great drive, and executed it absolutely perfectly, much like what we saw Will Brown able to do in the race earlier today. So the Erebus guys, Will Brown in 2nd, Brody Kostecki 3rd. So Kostecki stands on the podium in all 3 races across the weekend, maintains his lead in the championship. But, yeah, faultless performance by everybody down there at Red Bull Lampole Racing and Brock Feeney.
He led every lap of the 42 from pole position. He got the fastest lap as well, and that is handy. 105 points in the championship tally for him out of that race, and that gives such great confidence for the boost in the next round. Symmons Plains in Tasmania in 3 weeks' time is where the Supercars are heading. We'll have all the action on SEN, but, wow, Brock Feeney, mark it down. Race win number 3, and it was an unbelievably dominant win. He's won in the West. We'll take a break on SEN. We'll wrap it all up and delve into who finished where when we come back. Well, it's been a big day in Western Australia and a win for Brock Feeney to round out the third and final race of the weekend. So the honours in the end, James Moffat, were shared in terms of the three races across three different drivers, but it was the two teams, Red Bull Ampol and the Erebus team, who've picked up the wins in the West. Will Brown a win earlier today, Shane van Gisbergen a win yesterday, and now Brock Feeney rounds out things. So it's been a lot of Coke and Red Bull on the podium this weekend. They've dominated the podium spots with not too many others earning a few trophies. They've really locked out a lot of those spots. They're the two teams that are leading the drivers' points. They're leading up there in the teams' championship. We've got a genuine, serious contender. I think it's official now. Erebus are in this championship right up to their eyeballs.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. They have certainly proven that across the first three rounds of the year. And they're going to be a hard one to beat, that's for sure. But Camaro again takes out the race win, so that's 3 race wins for Camaro across the weekend. So the Mustangs still have a bit of work to do, particularly in race pace. So we obviously saw earlier today that James Courtney was able to snag a podium, and David Reynolds yesterday with a third place finish. But yeah, it's the Chevy bow tie that's doing all the business at the top end of the championship so far. But for Ford fans, there is some stuff to take out this weekend. David Reynolds was consistent. He was solid. I mean, he was third yesterday. He didn't qualify outside the top 4 all weekend. So there's pace over one lap in those Mustangs. I mean, Mostert was in the mid-top 10 for most of the run. Cam Waters had a bit of a tough weekend but brought it home and to a 6th place in the final race. Will Davison was a 6th, 7th, 8th type of car for the Shell V-Power Racing team. So a bit of a turnaround, a bit of an improvement from that team compared to where they started in Newcastle. But man of the match for the weekend for me has got to be Will Brown. I mean, because where he was yesterday, I mean, yes, Brody Kostecki's topped the points for the weekend. Van Gisbergen fought back pretty well today, had a win yesterday. But from where Will Brown was yesterday to where he was today, I mean, he qualified 22nd and finished 16th yesterday and then vaulted out with a pole and a win earlier today and then backs it up with another podium. So Erebus have now got absolutely 2 contenders in the game. It's not just Brody and Will somewhere back there having the odd good weekend. We're now starting to see that it's 2-on-2. Red Bull, usually in the past, have been able to team up against, whether it was McLaughlin for Shell V-Power or whoever it might be. There's 2 to take on there, and that's great for the game overall. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you can see that Brody Kostecki, he's been the most consistent out of the top 4 drivers in the championship, and that's why he sits at the top of the championship. Shane had a bit of an unusual day today, so he finished 5th in the first race, Shane van Gisbergen that is, qualified 21st for the last race, got up to 12th, and you got Brock Feeney, who obviously dominated that last race starting from pole position, but in the race earlier today, qualified poorly in 21st position and was able to get back to 13th. So it's really Brody who is the standout at the moment in terms of being consistent. He's only been off the podium for 1 race so far this year, which was race 2 of the championship. So it's no surprise that he's leading the championship. You've got Mostert in there in the championship fight a little bit, but probably doesn't have the pure pace so far. He's just been reasonably consistent. But really the Mustang guys, they've got to find some speed in the races because so far they haven't been able to legitimately challenge for race wins. Lots been said about the parity between the 2 cars. It's an ongoing part of Supercars racing. The aim of the game is to have the 2 cars as even as they possibly can be, if not absolutely the same. So it's the teams who are making the difference, the drivers, the engineers at the respective teams who are doing that as well. So far, I mean, if you look at the sheer weight of it, the Camaros 1, 2, 3 in that last race, Ford 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's not like there's piles of Camaros who are all there as well. Look, take for example, Team 18, they're not there. Noonan Racing, they're not there. So those Fords are in the game. They're not that far away, but at the moment, Erebus have rolled out the gate really well. 888 always tend to roll out of the gate well. So I don't think the Fords are that far away, but the next track we go to is the one that intrigues me. Symmons Plains in Tasmania is basically 2 big drag strips with a couple of kinks and a few some low corners at the end of them. So if the Fords are having a little bit of an issue in terms of needing some adjustments to their software to be able to help for those 4th, 5th and 6th gear changes down those long runs,
that might be where we get a little bit of a gauge on, are they in the game or are they not, or do they need a little bit more tweaking?
Well, Symmons Plains and the layout of that circuit, as you touched on, will absolutely highlight any deficiencies in those areas if there are any. So, there's a premium on, I guess, top-end speed down at Symmons Plains, the way the layout of the track is there. But you also need a car that can get off the slow-speed corners well. Symmons Plains is characterised by that famous sort of tight turn 4 hairpin, which is the slowest corner in Australian motorsport. It's very unique in terms of how it's banked. But, I'm sure there'll be a couple of guys over in the West tonight celebrating pretty hard in terms of Brodie Kostecki and Will Brown. They've had a fantastic weekend. But also young Brock Feeney, that's his third race win now, so he's starting to chalk up a few. He's, I guess, consistently being able to challenge his benchmark teammate in Shane van Gisbergen. I think the other probably most notable person to talk about this weekend that would have been disappointed with his results is Cam Waters.
Yep.
So he really hasn't sort of, I guess, fired over the last couple of weekends. Obviously picked up that first race win in Newcastle due to the disqualification of the two Red Bull cars, but he was in contention for, I guess, podium place, race 2 of the championship when he made a bit of a blue and clipped the wall, damaged his steering, and had a quiet weekend at the Grand Prix, and another one salvaged it with a 6th place finish in the final race, but he'll be looking to lift his performance and the whole Tickford crew.
The really big thing this weekend in Perth for me, though, with Tickford was that it wasn't just all of Tickford back in the pack. It was Waters back in the pack because James Courtney was a solid, regular top 10 runner. He finished on the podium yesterday. Thomas Randall had some pace going. He was in the 10 more often than not. So Cam is generally the leading Tickford car, but this weekend he wasn't. It wasn't a case that they were all nowhere. He was the one who was having a bit of a struggle. So he'll want to get back on and run in Tassie in a few weeks' time to try to salvage that and push his way back up the order.
And that'll just be a feeling thing for Cam, having worked closely with him over the last couple of years, he just won't be getting the feeling and the sweet spot out of the car that he quite requires. So him and his engineer, Sam Potter, will have to go to work between now and the next round and work out what they need to do to the car to make it work, because as you touched on, James Courtney, podium in race number 8 and 3 top 10s across the weekend. So I think he had a 5th, a 3rd and a 9th across the 3 races. So Courtney, after his nightmare start to the championship where he crashed in the top 10 shootout for race number 2, wasn't able to start that race, then had that spectacular fire at the Australian Grand Prix. So Courtney's got his, I guess, year off, or back on track, if you like, after a tough couple of early rounds.
Yeah, he was really struggling there to when you come into a round of the championship and you've got to look way down the point score to see where you actually are. But the thing today that really caught my eye, obviously, I mentioned about Will Brown, but Feeney from pole leads every lap, scores the fastest lap of the race, wins the race. That's not been done by anybody in the championship. I think the last guy to do that was McLaughlin. Right. Back in that dominant run in the championship in 2019, I think it might have been. But, that is confidence building. And remember that the next round in Tassie is where Brock Feeney scored his first podium last year. And Triple Eight traditionally, whether they were in Ford Falcons back in the day or the previous era Commodore or the newer era Commodore of the last few years, Tassie's been a track that Triple Eight cars, not just theirs, but their customer cars, have been unbelievably strong at. They have to start favourites when they go there in 3 weeks' time.
Absolutely. It's one of Triple Eight's happy hunting grounds for sure. They have been a dominant force down at Symmons Plains Raceway. And you talk about Brock Feeney, you forget about the man that he replaced, Jamie Whincup. That was a Jamie Whincup-like performance that Brock put on this afternoon.
Yep.
So,
dominant.
Yeah, very big shoes to fill, but I think he's doing a very, very solid job, more than a solid job at filling those shoes.
Yeah, it's a real confidence builder as the Supercars Championship now, Jimmy, will head to Tassie. We'll have all the action on SEN on the Sunday for the pair of races from the SuperSprint event down there. But today it was all about the young guns. They have stepped it up in the Supercars Championship. 2 wins today shared between Will Brown and Brock Feeney. We might be just seeing bit of a changing of the guard in the Supercars Championship, but still 9 rounds left to come. Big day of racing in the West.